Hello, friends. My husband getting on my case for being 1 minute late because I do that on his streams. Hoisted by my own Picard. Let me listen to the same sweet, sweet jazz tones. ABC Coffee, hello. Yes, I'm a tiny bit late. I do apologize. It's morning, and I don't do mornings the best. I have my coffee. I've got vanilla biscotti coffee. Ironically, have coffee, and I'm going to be talking about tea today, but whatever. I learned from last time, and I already rearranged the display. I'm the one that's late. I got lucky because of time zone difference. You're right on time, ABC Coffee. You haven't missed anything. I rearranged the display according to some of the feedback last time. Up in the corner is the actually tea sip emote. Hey, Bruce Campbell Soup, how are you? And Marathnon, how are you? And ABC Coffee, how are you? Also, Ghost Pepper, I know how you are, but if you want to tell the chat, please feel free. Yeah, so that is the tea sip emote up in the corner there by the lovely It's Mumbles. I figured that would be a good little placeholder for while we're talking about tea today. I'm basically going to cover my advent calendar, but if you have any questions about tea or coffee or anything, writing anything, please feel free to interject. This is 100% a just chatting stream today. This is just a cool, chill hangout pre-going back to work next week. Next week, I will be back to doing the regular productivity. I'm actually going to start a brand new novel on stream next Thursday. So that's going to be awesome. It's going to be in that same series that I've been working on. Doing good. Have my own cup ready to just sit here. Yes. ABC Coffee. Also, how was your Christmas? And Bruce Campbell Soup, I know I've already talked to you, but also, how was your Christmas? Again, tell us more. And Marathon, if you're not lurking, how was your Christmas? I wanted to share, post all of the chaos that we put into this last stream. I actually realized that I've shown a few people this, but I actually realized that I had day of the week stickers. So, on the months where we, totally covered up the days, some of the days of the week, I went back and added more colorful stickers. So it's even more chaotic than it was when we stopped the last time. But I didn't have enough to do all of the day stickers for all of the months that we're covering days. So there's some extra chaos there at the beginning. January and February each only have one sticker. But I'm pretty happy with this. Got myself chair lumbar supporter so I can posture check myself while we write. Yes, ABC Coffee, that is such a good idea. I was in awful pain before I got my lumbar support, in all honesty. It was the worst. And it's night and day. I try to get up and move around more often too, but I can sit here much longer, much more comfortably. But yeah, so I did manage to get the rest of the days and the little numbers, the little number circles put in there. And then I started to fill out, I still have a few things, I haven't filled out my, daily rituals and my strategy yet, but I did start to fill out, some of the big, pages. I've got this stuff, so it's coming along. I'm probably gonna try and finish it tonight. I have a stream I have to get ready for on Thursday that is not taking place on my channel. I have to level up one of my D&D characters for it, but I'm gonna probably finish that up tonight, so it's all ready to go. And I get to start using it on Saturday, which is insane to me. that Saturday is the first day of a new year already. It's so cray. So, I mentioned on a few other streams, but, hang on, I'm sniffly today because snow. Ghost and I just had a super chill, like, movie day. We watched the old Scrooged with Bill Murray, which we hadn't watched from beginning to end in, like, a decade. It was fun. There were moments that have not aged well since that movie was made, but it was super chill. We ate so much food in like a 3-day span. It was insane. Ghost made this amazing beef roast. We decided not to do turkey a second time because we had just done a big turkey dinner for Thanksgiving. Turkey is a bit of a pain. I'm sure I don't have to tell anybody. It can be a bit of a process getting it together. So we did beef roast instead. It was super good. I made some candied sweet potatoes in the oven. It was my first time doing them in the oven. Instead of boiling them, I actually just put like a little bit of butter and brown sugar sauce over them and then baked them in the oven for about 45 minutes. They were amazing. I'm definitely going to make them that way again. Bardow, hello. How are you? What are you up to today? Sorry to be slow in chat, juggling a bunch of stuff. No worries. When I watch your streams, it's the same for me. So no pressure. You're snowed in. First of all, are you safe, Bardow? And oh my gosh, that sounds like a lot of snow. Did you get more? How much snow did you have the last time you talked to Ghost? Is there a picture of like how much snow you have? We're safe but running low on groceries. Oh no. I mean, check out your pantry because you might find that you can make it go a little further than you expect, but that sucks. Hopefully they'll at least get the roads, like the main roads, cleared so that you can get that stuff if you need to. Northwest coast. Oh boy. I can't show you because if I direct my camera towards the window, that's all you'll see. But we have quite a bit of snow outside, but not like closing us in kind of snow. Just like I really don't necessarily want to have to go out in that kind of snow. Storm is supposedly coming to the Midwest from the Pacific Northwest. I got some flurries, but not much. Yeah, well, I know Vinyl was saying that they had a bunch of snow out in their direction, too, and it doesn't usually snow out there. The main roads are being plowed, but ours isn't, and we're at the bottom of the hill. Oh, no. We didn't, like, in our area, at least. But you have to keep in mind that for Ghost and I, we lived in, northern Quebec for 2 years, and like a lot of snow was like a snow pile, like basically snow up to here. Up to my hip, and then the snow piles would be like over my head. We've gotten at least a foot all combined, but it's not melting and our road is low priority. I see. We are the hottest place in Canada and most people aren't used to getting this much snow. Exactly. Like, to Ghost and I, this is, like, nothing, but to the team that, like, manages, I see that my timer still isn't doing what I want it to do. Ghost, how did you make the timer do your command? I don't understand. I've set it up wrong. Husband and brother are going to try to get out of our neighborhood in a little bit to make it to the grocery store. Well, tell them to keep safe. Like, if the roads are super slippery, tell them not to risk it. But good luck. Definitely hope you can get there. I tried to do what you said, Ghost, and it's not working. I'll just fix that, and then we'll talk about tea. The main point of this stream, other than to just hang out, is to... I don't remember what the main point of this stream today is to talk about tea, because you guys asked for it, so I figured I would do it. I've been doing a tea advent calendar. I don't do them every year, but I did do one this year. Instead of going for the regular David's tea, I'll just change this for now so that it actually shows the message. Instead of going for the regular David's tea, it works when you do the command, it just doesn't work when the Stream Elements does the command, which I'm not sure how you have that set up. I thought I figured it out, but clearly I didn't. So instead of going for the regular David's Tea Advent Calendar, which I've done before, I went for the Matcha Advent Calendar. I don't know if you can still... I don't know if I can still show it to you, because... what they do still have them. Okay. I'm not signed in, so you won't see my address. Oh yeah, I don't have... Hang on, let me... I've made everything difficult. There we go. So this is the advent calendar that I got. It is the Matcha advent calendar. I've done their regular advent calendar several times in the past. And it's good. You need to get over, first of all, I didn't dox us. It was just the town name. I saw you go on the Beardy Bunch and say that I doxed us, and I didn't. And also, I wasn't on a website. I was just on my weather widget on my desktop. Like, it literally just popped up. So I don't know why you're going around telling everybody that I doxed us when I didn't. You were the one who showed our address the one time. So, thank you. Goodbye. But anyway, this is my advent calendar. Incidentally, I followed up on that by telling them that I doxed us way worse. Well, good. Because you did. I may have skipped ahead a little bit because I wanted to get to the roleplay bits. Yeah, because only like a handful of people have that postal code. So you can use the postal code to get to like the street. But anyway, this is my advent calendar. Incidentally, they're on sale now because it's after Christmas. Any IPs who went to week 2, right? I mean, sometimes you just forget. Like, I can't show you anything on Amazon because it will show my address in the corner, and you just forget. But anyway, this is what I'm mostly going to be talking about today. I keep saying, but anyway. I feel like a broken record. It's interesting that they show it with the whisk because it doesn't come with the whisk. But yeah, so that's what I'm mostly going to start out by talking about, but we can talk about anything, really. Yeah, hey, Tam! Everything's going well here. I was just saying that we had a super chill Christmas. How are you, and what are you up to? How was your Christmas? I decided to do the Matcha Advent Calendar both because I've had a lot of the regular teas from the regular Advent Calendar, but also, can I move this over here without, like, infinity streaming? Yes, I can. But also because, like, I've tried so many of the teas at at David's Tea, but I've never tried their matcha, and I've never really tried a lot of matcha, and I was like, this is a good opportunity for me to dip my toes into the matcha and see what it's all about, and basically get a sense for if it's something that I want to buy more of in the future, get a couple of flavors to add to my collection and have around all the time, which is basically what I do with the regular tea calendars as well. It was just a little bit more of unknown territory because on the first day of the calendar, I didn't really know how to make the matcha. I didn't really know what to expect from the matcha. And I found out pretty quickly that I didn't really have all the stuff that I needed. So that happened. Doing okay, working from home. Christmas was quiet. Christmas being quiet is like my dream. We had a super quiet Christmas too. I'm glad you're working from home. Poor Bardell is snowed in right now, so we're keeping our fingers and toes crossed that someone from the household can get to the grocery store. Dipping toes into matcha sounds like a weird spa treatment. You know what? Somebody probably does it though, because there's supposed to be tons of health benefits to matcha. And that was another one of the reasons why I wanted to get into it, to see if it was something I wanted to have around all the time, because it's supposed to be super healthy for you. Matcha, for anyone who doesn't know, matcha is basically green tea leaves that have been ground into a powder. So normally when you drink tea, you are taking the leaves or, the herbal infusion or whatever, but usually the leaves, and you're immersing them in water, and it is imparting the flavor to the water, but then you remove the tea matter and throw it away. With matcha, they've actually ground up the tea leaves to make this really concentrated green tea, and you're actually drinking the leaf from the tea, which is where all of the health benefits are. Sorry to hear about being snowed in. I have some ice to chip off the driveway, but not stuck at all. Yeah, depending on where you're located, I think some people deal with snow more easily than other places. Drinking the beef? No, the leaf with an L. Although technically, isn't broth just meat tea? And isn't soup just vegetable tea? Technically. I would be more sorry if it wasn't a much needed break from work. I was gonna say, Bard, if it's getting you a chance to chill and relax, take it. Take advantage of it. Adults don't get many snow days. But, yeah, so the first thing I want to say about the Advent calendar, just before we start getting into the flavors, and I'm sure we're going to go off on a million tangents, so who knows if we'll even get through all the flavors on the Advent calendar. The first thing I want to say about the flavored matchas is that they all have cane sugar and artificial flavors in them. So when you buy from David's Tea a regular loose leaf tea, one of the best things about loose leaf tea is that the majority of the ingredients are natural ingredients. It's dried fruit, it's ground herbs, it's whatever spice or what is giving flavor to that tea, it's just a chunk of that in there. At David's, they do sometimes add artificial flavors to some of their teas, and they do sometimes add stevia leaf to some of their teas, the ground stevia instead of sugar. But for the most part, what you see is what you get. You're getting natural grown ingredients, and that's one of the best things about loose leaf tea is that it's healthier for you because it's using all of those base ingredients. For an appetizer, I'd like a bowl of your best beef tea. Yum. But with the matcha advent calendar, it's very much just, I guess because it has to be matcha powder, right? Everything has to be included in that powder, and in order to not take away from the matcha, they're basically using artificial flavors, right? So everything that's strawberry or honey, even the honey, there's no actual honey in the tea. It's just extract, like it's flavor extract. And sometimes it does feel like you're basically drinking an essential oil. Like the wild honey matcha, it tasted like I was drinking potpourri. And I wouldn't be surprised if they had essentially extracted like wildflower oils and used that as like the honey flavor in the tea. So you're already like you're getting away from sort of that quality that people look for in loose leaf tea, because you're not using the base ingredients, you're just adding flavors. And on top of that, all of the flavors have cane sugar added to them, which is also unhealthy for you. For the regular matcha, they recommend using 2 scoops. So the perfect, I think I showed it before, but the perfect matcha tea spoon is half a teaspoon. So you're having a teaspoon of green tea, like regular matcha green tea, when you use the regular matchas. For the flavored matchas, they want you to use 5 scoops, which sounds insane to me. I never used 5 scoops in any of them. The most I ever used was 3. I tried using 2, but there wasn't enough flavor, so I did use 3. But you're basically, at that point, you can assume that you're drinking at least a teaspoon, if not more, of cane sugar, in addition to the matcha tea. So I think Mr. Roboto only uses 3. But is he using flavored matcha or regular matcha? Because the regular matcha, you don't need as much. The flavored matcha, you need more. And I did use, so for the regular, you only need that much. Like, I never, to be honest, I never listen to the recommendations of David's tea, because a lot of the time they're like, use 2 perfect scoops of the tea for a single cup of tea. And it's like, you only need 1 perfect scoop of tea, because it's a tablespoon for that. So you only need 1 tablespoon, and you can get 2 cups of perfectly good steep out of most teas. The herbal teas, a little less so, because herbal teas tend to give all of their flavor at once, which means you have to steep for basically 24 hours to get a second steep out of it. So I never really listened to the recommendations of David's tea, but I think it's important to realize that if you are drinking the matcha tea for the health benefits, you are kind of, if you're using the flavored matchas, you're kind of eliminating the health benefit because you're drinking with sugar. And I also found that I needed to add a little bit of honey to most of the flavors in order to bring out the flavor. So in addition to a teaspoon of cane sugar, I was also putting a teaspoon of honey in there, which means basically I was drinking a lot of sugar for the amount of matcha that I was drinking. I was not necessarily drinking it for the health benefits. I was drinking it for fun. So I don't necessarily care about the amount of sugar that was in it. But I feel like if you were to put the recommended 5 scoops from David's tea of their flavored matchas into a tea, it would be super, super sweet. Because at that point, you're drinking 2 teaspoons of sugar in addition to the tea, like as a base. And you're not like, you want to be careful because sugar is actually very unhealthy for you. So if you are looking for the health benefits of matcha tea, it's probably best to go with a base matcha. The base matcha, the default like traditional matcha, the matcha matsu that came with the advent calendar did not have any sugar in it. It was just ground tea leaves. It was much more bitter than the other flavors, which I'll talk about. It was good. I mean, if you've ever gone to like Starbucks and ordered a green tea latte, that's what it is. It's matcha basically. And it's being able to just drink any tea I want. Is there some reason why you can't? Do you have certain health restrictions that don't let you drink certain types of teas? Because I know I have to be careful for anything that has milk ingredients in it, because it's really caffeine sensitivity. Yeah, my mother-in-law has that too. She had to give me a bunch of teas because she just couldn't drink them anymore. Unfortunately, matcha does have caffeine in it because it is grinding up the tea leaves. can do herbals and decaf. Yes. And the nice thing about tea is that there are a lot of uncaffeinated or decaf teas that you can choose from. Matcha, unfortunately, because it grinds up the leaf, you wouldn't be able to drink any of these because they all have medium to high caffeine in them. Matcha on its own, like I said, is pretty bitter. So it is more tasty if you put a little bit of honey and some steamed milk in it. Basically, a green tea latte from Starbucks. I do too. I actually really like the flavor of matcha. I don't know that I would want to drink... I don't think I would want to drink unflavored matcha all the time. I do think I would like to add unflavored matcha to my collection and drink it some of the time. There are also a couple of flavors that I really liked. It tastes very green. I mean, that makes sense. And it is very, like I did post a couple of pictures on the Discord. It is very green once you actually grind it up. So, let me just find my tea talk section so I can remember the order of the teas. It does come out to like a very green color. So caffeine sensitive the other way, I need it. Yeah, so here's an interesting thing. I don't know how many people know this, but here's the science behind how caffeine works. Basically, there are receptors. The way the brain works is that it creates chemicals and it creates receptors. The chemicals are shaped a certain way and the receptors are shaped a certain way so that the chemicals go into the appropriate receptors. You have a certain number of receptors for the fatigue hormone, essentially, that the brain produces more of the longer you're awake. And basically the reason why you start to get tired is because more and more of those receptors get filled up. It's talking in the song. Let's skip that. More and more of those receptors get filled up by the chemical. But caffeine is the exact same shape as the chemical that makes you tired. So what happens is, hey, Polka Dot Man 45, who's there? I've been off matcha for a little bit for the wrong reasons. Ordered a matcha latte from Dunkin' about 8 to 9 months ago. It had matcha and milk, no coffee espresso. Matcha plus straight milk wasn't so good. Yeah, I don't think they put any espresso in the matcha tea at Starbucks unless you ask them to, but they do put flavor in it. So I used to work at Starbucks and I happen to know that the way they make the green tea matcha latte is they put 2 pumps of the vanilla syrup for a grande, and then they put the matcha syrup or the matcha mix, because it's a mix, and then they put about half a cup of water and the steamed milk on top of that. You definitely need to sweeten matcha because it's certainly bitter on its own. B what? Or is that supposed to be me? How are you doing, Polka Dot Man 45, and how was your Christmas? But I can have a little regular green tea because the iotine content helps to mitigate some of... Sorry, I'm still trying to pronounce this. Oh, L-theanine? Is that what it is? I'm never going to pronounce this correctly. Helps to mitigate some of the negative effects of the caffeine, but matcha is more concentrated in terms of caffeine content. Yes, it is. It's very concentrated in terms of caffeine because much, much higher caffeine content than regular green tea because you're drinking the leaf. I'll be back later. Take care, Polka Dot Man. what was I saying? I got so thrown off by... So when I made these at home, I can't remember what I was... Oh, I was explaining how caffeine works. So caffeine is the exact same shape as the chemical that makes you tired. And this is why it works as a stimulant, is it fits into those receptors that normally when you get the tired chemical in them, they make you feel tired. So what's happening is that caffeine goes in there and it blocks off those receptors from getting the tired chemical, and that's why you feel awake. That's why you get that boost of energy whenever you drink caffeine or a caffeine. I mean, obviously you don't drink straight caffeine, but whenever you drink a caffeinated beverage, you get that boost because essentially that chemical is going into those receptors and preventing you from getting the tired hormone. But the flip side of that is your brain knows that you need that tired chemical so that you'll rest. So what happens is if you drink enough caffeine that it fills up enough of those receptors, the brain starts to create more of those receptors so that you'll still feel tired. And as a result of this, many people drink more coffee because they're trying to feel less tired. They're not getting the regular boost from the coffee, and this perpetuates the cycle. And this is why you end up with a caffeine headache if you don't drink caffeine for a day or two after you've drunk a lot of caffeine, is because once you're not drinking as much caffeine, those extra receptors will start to die or wither, essentially, because your brain realizes you don't need them anymore. And that's why if you drink a lot of caffeine and then you drink less or no caffeine for a day or two, you get a super big headache and feel really tired, is because your brain is readjusting. Like, first of all of those receptors are getting full of the tired hormone, so you're feeling super tired. But also your brain is adjusting by getting rid of those extra receptors, and that's why you get the headache. So... If you are having a moment where you're like, oh, I haven't drunk enough caffeine because I'm getting a headache, if you actually slowly cut back on caffeine, it can mitigate that. And then if you stick at a constant rate of caffeine where it does give you the boost, you won't have that. Is it just not playing music anymore? Oh, it was just quiet at the end of this thing. I only actually drink 1 cup of coffee a day because if I drink coffee in the afternoon, I'll just never sleep. I'm one of those people who's super sensitive to that boost, like, will keep me awake. But I can drink tea in the afternoon because it has much less caffeine in it. And I do often drink decaf teas in the evening as well when I feel like it. So there you go, little science lesson. I think it might be Kurzgesagt or something like one of those places has a little video that actually animates the process of how caffeine works if you're interested in learning more about it. That's why bonus Trionis is such a rare occasion. Exactly, Tam. That's good, because if you did that every day, instead of getting the coffee boost, you would actually be just more tired. I do occasionally, very, very occasionally, let myself have afternoon coffee, I will say. But always super wired afterwards, because it's like, yeah, caffeine. Also, somewhat ironically, I don't think a lot of people realize this, but espresso, which we tend to think of as having a fuck ton of caffeine, actually has slightly less caffeine in it than regular coffee, than regular, like, black ground coffee. So there you go. On scale for teas, black tea tends to have the most caffeine. Matcha as well has quite a bit of caffeine. Mates also usually have caffeine in them, and sometimes mate powder is added to other teas to give them a caffeine boost. And then you have green tea, which has more mild caffeine, and then you get into your herbal teas, which have no caffeine because they are just made from herbal blends. Some people don't consider them actual tea because they don't contain tea leaf, But you make them the same way that you make other teas, so they get lumped in with tea. So if I start out with the calendar, it started with a cream of Earl Grey matcha, which I thought it was kind of weird that it didn't start with the default, like, traditional matcha flavor, because you would want, like, a baseline. I expected it would be, like... And maybe they don't do that because they want the first day of the calendar to be exciting instead of being plain. But for whatever reason, it started with cream of Earl Grey. David's tea has a flavor called cream of Earl Grey that is a loose leaf tea. I'm gonna sneeze, I apologize. I feel it. Hey Tempest, how are you? How was your Christmas and what are you up to? We're just talking about tea today, but feel free to interrupt with other topics because we can talk about anything. Super chill today. So basically, the cream of Earl Grey loose leaf tea is just your ordinary loose leaf Earl Grey with... Earl Grey is, sort of unique. I don't know if I would say unique. It's identifiable by the fact that it uses, bergamot to give it its main flavor. And the cream of Earl Grey tea has a creamy, like, flavor added to that. So it's really good with a little bit of milk. I really like the loose leaf cream of Earl Grey, but I found that for the matcha one, it didn't have as much flavor. Now, it could have been because that was the first day and I used less of the matcha flavoring than I did in the other teas. I did kind of try to retroactively add a little bit more, but it's hard to keep matcha powder dissolved if you add it later, especially because I had added some milk as well. So this one felt like it had muted flavors to me, but having more experience now with making the matcha and how the flavors tend to come through, I think the cream of Earl Grey would be good if I used a little bit more of the matcha powder to make it. But it's a very muted flavor. I think because everything has the matcha mixed in there, so it's all about getting the flavor to overpower the matcha just enough that you taste it. So I do prefer the loose leaf Earl Grey, cream of Earl Grey matcha. It's really good. Matcha. The loose leaf cream of Earl Grey, without the matcha. It's super good. I don't think we have it in our tea collection, but it's one of the ones that I would like to get, just because it is super nice. I don't think I would choose this matcha as a matcha to drink regularly because it wasn't particularly exciting. It wasn't bad or anything. It just wasn't exciting. Doing absolutely nothing? Awesome, Tempest. That's kind of what I'm doing too. I'm just here chilling out with y'all fine folks. That's what you do after Christmas. You just chill and relax, and it's great. So, one of the things that I figured out really quickly, so I said when I first started making the tea that I realized I didn't have what I needed. One of the things that I figured out really quickly is that the big bamboo whisk that you use to make matcha does not fit in my tea mug, because my tea mug is really wide at the brim and really narrow at the base. And so basically the size of the base of my mug is the size of the bamboo whisk, essentially. So what you're supposed to do is you put the matcha in a vessel, usually like a wide. You're supposed to actually have a specific matcha making bowl, which I didn't get because I was like, whatever, I won't need that. Instantly realized that I do need it, because you're supposed to put it in the vessel and then you do the whisking in like a zigzag motion. I couldn't do that. If you just do a circular motion with the bamboo whisk and matcha, you don't get that really good froth that you're supposed to get. So basically, I instantly realized that I couldn't make the matcha directly into my mug because it didn't work. Good morning, Snozberries. How are you? What are you up to today, and how is your Christmas? We're talking about the tea, which I know you were interested in because you've been asking me my favorites on the Discord. So what I did after the first day was I started making the matcha in a bigger container that had a corner that I could just sort of then dump it into my mug, which you're supposed to get little bowls with a spout on it that you use to pour the matcha into your mug. If I continue drinking matcha in the future, I probably will get one of those. But I just sort of made do with the best that I had available. And I also used 3 scoops for the rest of the flavors, and the recommended 2 scoops for the default matcha moving forward. So day 2 was pumpkin pie matcha, which pumpkin is one of my favorite flavors. I'm one of those people who will put pumpkin in everything all year round. I just love the taste of pumpkin. It's just amazing. And I was really, really excited about the pumpkin pie matcha because I figured it being pumpkin is one of the ones I would like. And I do have a problem where my old favorite my pumpkin chai that I used to always get from David's Tea has milk in it. So I was like, this could be a viable replacement if it's really good. But it didn't taste very pumpkin-y. It tasted creamy and like mellow, but it didn't have that like pumpkin kick. And it definitely didn't have like the spice. Like it didn't really taste like pumpkin pie. Basic AF, so pumpkin pie matcha sounds yum. Yeah, I really wanted it to be my favorite, but it was just kind of there. Like it wasn't bad, but it wasn't like great either. Things haven't been great. Best not to bring down the energy of the room. Oh, Snoz, I'm so sorry to hear that. If you need to talk about anything, Ghost and I are here. You can always PM us on Discord if you don't want to talk about it on stream. But also, let us just give you a chill relax if that's what you need. That's what we're here for. Sending you all the loves and all the hearts. And hopefully you can hang out with us for a bit and hopefully that will help somehow. Yes, you are loved here, 100%, Snoz. So if you need anything, we are totally here. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say no to a pumpkin pie matcha if someone thrust it into my hands. I mean, obviously. But I don't think I'll buy it to add to my collection. It was a bit of a letdown just because I wanted that to be one of the better flavors and it kind of wasn't. I kind of very quickly learned that the simpler the flavor that's added to the matcha, the better it matches the green tea. Also, I put milk in that one. I might try, I have enough for a second glass. I might try it again without the milk and see if that brings out the flavor a little bit more. But in terms of, I have like 3 other pumpkin teas, so I don't think I'll be rushing, like 3 other pumpkin teas that I like better. So I don't think I'll be rushing to add this one to my collection. But if you like pumpkin, it's out there. You can always give it a try. The day 3 was called Yuzu Matcha, and I'm not even sure if I'm saying that right, if it's yuzu or uzu. Apparently it's a Japanese citrus fruit, which I had never heard of before, and I actually had no idea what to expect when I took the first sip of the tea. I looked it up ahead of time because I know sometimes if you don't know what, like whenever Ghost hands me a new drink that he's mixed, that I haven't like watched him mix, I'm always like, what's in it? Because if you have an expectation of what you're going to taste when you taste something, it's always a lot more clear in your brain. Like you always get a much better experience than if you just taste something and you have no idea what to expect. Because it can really mess with your brain if you're expecting something savory and you eat something sweet or vice versa. So I wanted to have some idea of what to expect. And I basically was like, all right, it'll be citrusy. It was very citrusy, the yuzu matcha. I did like it. I don't know. Again, I don't know. I have so many teas now that I'm very discerning about my collection. It was very citrusy. Like it wasn't like drinking Sunny D, but it was almost like drinking Sunny D. Are you sure it's not your brain that's a mess? My brain is a pretty big mess. Also, hi, Weirdwin. How are you? How was your Christmas? And also, those emotes are adorable. Oh my gosh. So freaking cute. Oops. Done something I didn't want to click on. There we go. Oh, that makes me think of, I got this from my in-laws for Christmas. I see if I can get it to focus a little bit better, but it's this super, super cute octopus necklace, and I love it so much. Isn't it adorable? I love that people have caught on that octopus are my thing, because I love them so much. Cryptid has amazing emotes. Those are amazing. Oh my gosh, they're so cute. Oh, I love the little warrior one. Oh my gosh. So adorable. So yeah, it was kind of like drinking, it was almost like drinking Sunny D. At the time, it was definitely the best of the flavors. But having experienced more balanced flavors, I don't know that I would list it as a favorite. I obviously drank this one without milk because citrus and milk don't necessarily mix very well. But it was good. It was the first one that I was like, okay, yeah, flavored matcha actually maybe is a cool thing. Day 4 was blueberry matcha, and that was the first time that I was like, yes, I would drink this all the time. This one was slightly different. There were 2 matchas that came in little packs, like little drink packs, where you basically just put all of the powder into the cup. It was about 3.5 scoops of powder. Sunny D matcha. It did basically taste like Sunny D matcha. And actually, David's Tea has a loose leaf tea. I don't know if they have it anymore, but it was in last year's advent calendar or the year before. It was in one of the advent calendars, and it was, like they basically describe it as Sunny D tea, and it was super, super citrusy and like, wow, like very orangey. It wasn't my favorite, but it definitely delivered like what it said. Like if you really like citrus, there's some teas at David's that you'll love, let me tell you. But the blueberry was the first one where I was like, yes, I would drink this all the time. I have to look it up because I don't know if they only sell it in the packets. I don't think I would buy it as like packets, but if they have it as like a loose powder, I would definitely drink this. I drank it without any milk in it. It tasted like blueberry, and it like genuinely, like the blueberry and the matcha worked very well together. They didn't interfere with each other. It was a very mellow drink. And I used to have way back when, Tazo used to make this really good blueberry white tea, which they discontinued for some bizarre reason. And now I drink Republic of Tea Blueberry Green, which is very similar, very close. But this blueberry matcha reminded me of that old like blueberry white tea that I really liked. So this is the first one where like I definitely am gonna look at it, like look into it and see if they have this as a loose powder. I avoid oil-based drinks like Sunny D, terrible effects. Yeah, I haven't actually drunk like real Sunny D, and it's gotta have been like 10 years. But the Yuzu matcha did remind me of like when I would drink Sunny D as a kid, like what it tasted like. I loved Sunny D when I was a kid. And then day 5, as I mentioned, was Matcha Matsu, which is basically just the traditional matcha. Now, I am not a matcha connoisseur, so I don't know necessarily what to look for in a good matcha. I've read from other people who drink matcha regularly that what you want is a really, really green looking powder, which is weird to say, but apparently if it has a yellowish tinge, it's not as good of a matcha. From what I've read on like comments and like forums and stuff, it seems like if there's any yellowish tinge to the matcha, it wasn't a good harvest of the leaf, and it will be a weaker, more bitter flavor. Now, I didn't have anything to compare to, so I don't know the quality of this matcha. It tasted fine to me. It needed some honey. I made it latte style, so it needed some honey, it needed some milk. But it basically tasted like a matcha latte from Starbucks, which I like. So it wasn't anything to write home about. I don't know if I would get my default, like, regular matcha powder from David's. I've had a couple other places recommended to me that I might look into for like a regular matcha powder, but I don't have anything bad to say about it. I mean, if you like the taste of matcha, you'll like it, and if you don't like the taste of matcha, you won't. I haven't had Sunny D in ages. Same, Snaz. Sunny D, I do remember really, really liking it. Like when I was a kid, I would sleep over at my grandma's every weekend, and like she always had Sunny D for me, and it was like always the thing that I wanted. AFK for a bit, no worries, Ghosty. I'm actually gonna probably pop out for a quick bio break here in a second, because it's been about an hour since I stood up and moved around, and it's good to do that. Sunny D as a kid was something I always looked forward to. I would like the matcha. Yeah, you probably, if you like Sunny D, you would really like that Uzu matcha, I would imagine. Especially if you like matcha. Ghost is gone, flip tables. Chaos. The ironic thing is that Ghost would actually love to add to the chaos if he was present. So, just so you know. So yeah, that was the first 5 days of the Advent calendar. There are 24 days in total, and I've actually not drunk the last 2. I have to look and see what the one for today is. But I learned a lot about making matcha in the first 5 days. I did for about 6 or 7 days. I used a container to do the bamboo whisk and make it and then pour it into my cup. But I actually found I have this really tiny. I'll see if I can show you. I have this really tiny silicone whisk that you can see right here. I started using that. I started using that instead of the bamboo whisk, just because it was easier. Like, it fit in my mug. It pulled down the number of steps that I had to go through to make the tea. And it works really well for me. Whoops. It works really well for me. It gives me the amount of froth that I want in my tea without me having to use a separate container. Again, if I keep making matcha in the future, I'll probably just get an actual matcha bowl and do it properly and use the bamboo whisk and all that. But for the purposes of everything, because this month has been insane, we did finally get a working dishwasher. For anyone who is following that saga, I almost sobbed when we washed dishes in it for the first time, and we didn't have to rerun it, and it just worked. It was just, and everything came out of the dishwasher sparkling clean, and I was just like, my life is complete again. Because it had been such this massive saga. And actually, I still need to send a message to Home Depot, and I've just been avoiding it because I was like, I don't care anymore. I have a working dishwasher. I don't want to deal with anything anymore. So I just needed to cut down the number of steps at some point along the process. But I've learned a lot about at least how to make matcha and how to get good results from it. It comes together much more quickly than a regular tea because you don't have to let it steep. And you actually do the tea leaves at, this is me getting super tea nerdy again. You want to steep different teas at different temperatures. So black teas, you want them to be very hot. You want it to be, boiling, like rapidly boiling when you pour the water in. But for green tea, if you pour in water that's boiling, you're actually going to singe the leaves. So you get a better flavor if you do it at about 185 Celsius versus the 212 degrees Celsius that you want to do black tea at. I actually have, you can't see it, but I actually have a little quick reference on my desktop. So it's 212 degrees Fahrenheit. Oh, it's Fahrenheit, not Celsius. 212 degrees Fahrenheit for black tea, 200 for rooibos tea and herbal tea. Rooibos is a type of tea that comes from Africa. And depending on when they harvest it and how they prepare it, it gives you a different flavor. There's green rooibos and red rooibos. The red rooibos has like a sort of rich vanilla-y flavor, and the green rooibos has a like rich grassy flavor. You want to do that at 200 degrees. Also, if you drink French press coffee like my boy Ghost, you want to do that at 200 degrees. Oolong teas are 190 degrees Fahrenheit. White teas are 185 because they're more delicate. And then green tea, you actually want to do 175. For the matchas, they've all been recommended at 185, and I've been doing them at 185 and haven't had any problems with them. Gotta go take care of some work stuff. Enjoy the tea tour. Thank you for stopping by, Tam. I hope you enjoyed what you were able to hear of the tea talk. And take care. I hope to see you again soon. One is fermented, as I recall. Yes. There are a bunch of different ways to prepare tea leaves that I don't even necessarily know about. Sometimes they just harvest the leaves. Sometimes they roast the leaves. There's a whole bunch of different processes. And rooibos is one of those ones where, depending on how they process the tea, it comes out completely differently. So I definitely recommend trying some different rooiboses because they're super good. And I think they're starting to become more well known, but I think they were definitely one of the less known teas for a while. I actually have a kettle that lets me set the temperature at which I boil my water for my tea because I'm a tea snob. So I've been doing them all at 185 as it recommends, and it's been going pretty well. I do think I would benefit from having a matcha bowl, and I am trying to figure out if because I think actually adding milk to some of the flavors diluted them. So there are a couple that I want to try again without the milk and see if I get more flavor from them. The pumpkin pie is one of them, and later on the dreamsicle one, which we'll talk about in a few minutes as well. Like how green, black, and white teas are all from the same bush. Yeah, our friend Vinyl Stencil was saying that she had to write a paper on tea, so she knows about all this stuff as well. Most tea does actually come from the same plant. And actually, that's one of the reasons why some people don't consider herbal teas to actually be teas, because they're not using anything from that tea plant. They're just using bits and bobs, so they end up just being like an infusion. Personally, I just group it all together. I mean, technically vegetable broth is just vegetable tea. Yeah, and it's really interesting that there's a lot of chemistry involved. Tetley tea is what they sweep up from the floor. Yes, exactly. Loose leaf tea is like the good high quality tea. And when you buy tea bags, that's just like the garbage tea. That's just what's left over after they've packaged all of the good loose leaf tea. And so I do have some tea bags that are really good, and I don't necessarily consider them lesser quality. But technically they are just like the leftover bits and bobs that they're making use of, and they just sweep it all into the tea bags to make sure that they're using every part of the plant. I'm not that advanced. I just heat water, make tea. I mean, Snaz, I did that for many, many years, and there's nothing wrong with that. You do not have to go into... I personally have recently started getting into the temperatures and, like, the different types of tea and the loose leaf steeping. Like, this is all relatively new for me. And I do like it enough to pay attention to the details, but if you just heat water and drink tea, that's cool too, as long as you're enjoying it. Technically, unless it comes from the tea bush, it's an infusion. Exactly. So, I mean, I call herbal teas for simplicity's sake, but they're technically not tea if it doesn't have anything from the tea plant in it. But yeah, it is interesting to realize that, like, tea bags are actually, like, the low tier tea that's just left over from when they've already made the good tea. And I think that's true not just of Tetley, but like Twinings, it's the same, all that kind of stuff. You can buy loose leaf tea bags that are like actual higher quality loose leaf tea put into bags, and you can tell that you're buying one of those tea bags because it'll be more expensive. And I don't know, I'm not like an expert in all of the different type of tea brands, but I do know one of the higher quality tea bags that you can buy is Tea Pigs. They're actually, like, they've actually, instead of using the leftover bits, they've actually taken the loose leaf tea and put it into their tea bags. And David's Tea often sells their loose leaf teas in bag form as well. I find that it's more expensive if you buy the tea bags, and you actually end up getting less than if you just buy 25 grams of the loose leaf tea and do it yourself. Tetley made it a business to sell the garbage they were using as fertilizer to ignorant Americans. Yeah, and I will admit there are a couple Tetley teas that I do drink, just because they're fine for my purposes. But since I discovered loose leaf tea, I do mostly do loose leaf in a loose leaf steeper now. And I have a couple of tea bags. Like I do just buy regular plain Jane Twinings Earl Grey because I mostly just use it for iced tea, and I don't really feel like I need to use a high quality tea for that. You know, every now and then, and I do have some just plain Jane green, like generic green tea bags that I use when I just want a green tea. I do use Tazo Zen if I'm like sick and I'm not feeling well. Tazo Zen is the tea that I drink. It has a little bit of spearmint in there, and it really, like, it soothes your throat. It opens up your sinuses. I drink that with a little bit of honey whenever I'm sick, and that's like my go-to. Tetley does have higher end teas, and they provide tea to other brands for different locations. Yeah, sure. I mean, I think probably every company has like their higher tier teas and their lower tier teas. But it is interesting that I think on this side of the pond that we were happy with lower quality tea for a much longer time than, say, like maybe the British. But having lived a year in England as well, I will say that there are some people over there too who are like tea is tea, and just plunk a tea bag in water and just drink it. Like there are all kinds of people everywhere, right? Not everyone cares about a higher quality tea. But it was interesting when we were in England. The thing was like getting coffee, because all of the coffee over there is instant coffee. And I was just like, I just want like coffee beans. I just want ground coffee beans. I don't want like instant coffee. And so one of the things that I was really happy about coming, like there were things that we enjoyed, like in England, honey is super cheap compared to what we pay for it here. and like stuff like that. But I couldn't get coffee, like I couldn't get coffee beans to save my life. I spent a year drinking instant coffee, and I was just like, I came back here and I was like, coffee beans. I can have proper coffee in the morning. So that was really weird to me, like the perception of like what is normal to drink in different places. The major market for tea in America was the southeast states, where it was used for caffeine and sugar and drank cold or room temp. It was the 18th century energy drink. Interesting. I did not realize that cold coffee was from that far back. I don't drink cold coffee myself. Speaking of, I do need to go give my coffee a quick refresh, and I am just gonna pop out and take a quick bio break. Like I said, I'll just be away for like 2 minutes, and then I'll talk about some more of the flavors. I hope you guys are enjoying this. You guys asked for it, so hopefully you're enjoying my little tea tour through what I've been drinking. That was tea though. Right, I said coffee and it was tea. I have had Southern iced tea and I love it. They drink it very, very sweet though. And it's actually really funny. Last thing before I go pop and take a break. I grew up in central Pennsylvania. And when people from like the South come up to the North and order iced tea, they expect that they're gonna get sweetened tea like they have, because in the South that's just normal. You get sweetened tea. That's what they all drink. It's the norm. But in the North, they make their iced tea without sweetening it. And so you basically have to try and pour sugar in it, but it doesn't work very well because sugar doesn't dissolve in the tea once it's cold, right? You need to dissolve the sugar in the tea when it's still hot or warm. Exactly. They put the sugar in while the tea is hot so it homogenizes easier, and then they chill it. Sweetest iced tea in the land. And I do love Southern sweet tea. Honestly, I do. But it's so funny when people would come visit Pennsylvania from places where they're used to having, it was the same with Canadians, right? When the Canadians would visit, because my husband is Canadian, so when his family would visit and order iced tea, and they would just take the first sip and just be like, what is this? And it's like, oh, you have to sweeten that. Because up here it's all like Nestea and stuff, right? Like when you go to a place and order like tea, you're getting like Nestea, which is also very sweet. Not as good as Southern sweet tea, but it's, it comes sweetened. But a lot of places in where I grew up, central Pennsylvania, instead of having like Nestea on tap, they just brew tea in the kitchen, but they don't sweeten it. And it's very off-throwing. Since the tea is the famous scraps mentioned earlier, it's very bitter. Exactly. The simple sugar is to overcome that. And yeah, if you've ever drunk an iced tea that's not been sweetened, it's very bitter. Yeah, absolutely. But I got used to that, like growing up where I grew up, but like that was, and I got used to pouring sugar into tea and then only having it like half melt, like half dissolve. Melt? Why did I say melt? Half dissolve, and then you get down to the bottom of the glass and it's super sweet because you're drinking the sugar bits. Like that was what I grew up doing. So that was just normal to me for a long time. I'm gonna pop AFK. Also, if you guys have any questions about tea or other things, please feel free to put them in the chat. If we go off on tangents today, it's not like we're interrupting anything. And I will be right back. Have a quick stretch break. I have returned. Ghost is making his lunch. That's why he's gone. He's gone AFK. I found it interesting that Americans used to drink chocolate as a breakfast drink and coffee came much later. Interesting, I did not know that. I do always find it's interesting to look at, like, throughout history what the traditions were and sort of what changes as it goes. I'm drinking vanilla biscotti coffee this morning. Very yummy. So day 6 of the Advent calendar was Cherry Blossom Matcha. Cherry Blossom, not a flavor that I'm like specifically familiar with. I've never had like a Cherry Blossom tea. But I expected it to be cherry. It was a really subtle flavor, a little bit like naturally sort of, I don't want to say creamy, but kind of naturally creamy. I actually really liked it. Normally I don't want flavors to be super subtle. I normally want them to I normally want there to be a flavor that dominates the cup. But I felt like, the sort of, I don't want to say aftertaste, but the sort of like after image of the cherry when you drank this one was really nice. Like, I enjoyed it. Again, I don't know if it's the kind of thing that I would like seek out on my own, which is why a variety pack is really good, because it gets you to try some things that you wouldn't necessarily try otherwise. But I liked it. I definitely think it was interesting. And I wouldn't be opposed to having it in my collection, definitely. Not like today's hot chocolate. This was more like half chocolate beans to 1/4 water and 1/4 milk. That sounds horrible to me. That sounds like super gross to me. But I can see why maybe they drank that in the morning. I can imagine that would have woken you up, yeah. Ooh, it doesn't sound nice though. Day 7 in the Advent calendar was actually Earl Grey matcha, as opposed to the cream of Earl Grey from day 1. I thought it was an interesting choice to include 2 Earl Grey based flavors in the Advent calendar. I don't know if it's just because they were doing like their most popular blends and both of those are among their most popular, or if they just don't actually have that many different matcha flavors versus like how many they have in the Advent calendar. I did like the Earl Grey matcha better than the cream of Earl Grey matcha, because the flavor of the just plain Earl Grey stood up to the flavor of the matcha powder much better, and it tasted like I was drinking an Earl Grey green tea. It definitely had overtones of the matcha in there, and it was much less sweet than the cream of Earl Grey, which I liked. So I didn't find that one objectionable. I don't know that it's like, wow, this was super great. I definitely think like maybe the cherry blossom and the yuzu are much more interesting, and the blueberry definitely like much more rave worthy. But it was a chill, nice, like I liked it. Those were kind of the stretch where I had like the blueberry and the cherry blossom and the Earl Grey, where I was starting to sort of come around to the idea of matcha, because the first few days didn't impress me. There's a Russian restaurant out in the countryside near here, and the lady makes her own tea from flowers and plants she picks herself. Ooh, that sounds amazing. And I love that tea can be like that. And like when you read like a historical fiction or whatever, like that wasn't all that uncommon for people to have like a garden where they would just go out and pick a bunch of stuff and make a tea from it. I've not had, but I've heard that nettle tea was like a big thing back in the day in England, like in medieval England. And I would be interested to... I have no idea what it tastes like. I have no idea what nettle tea tastes like, but apparently it was a big thing. The chocolate breakfast drink was more like a syrup in consistency. Yeah, that's what I'm imagining. And like, it would be, I feel like it would be ultra bitter. Like not nice. But I'm imagining maybe that was like a precursor to coffee, right? I can see why you would go from that to coffee, I guess, is what I'm saying. Because it's slightly more pleasant. Day 8 was where I stopped taking pictures of the advent calendar for anyone who was keeping track. Was lavender honey matcha. Real chocolate isn't very bitter. Oh, isn't it? I actually have started... I have to, like... basically eat dark chocolate now because I can't do other chocolates, so I'm used to it being a little bitter. I guess it's the idea of chocolate, just like chocolate beans and milk and water as a syrup. It just doesn't strike me as though it would be good. So this is honey lavender matcha day 8. Again, it was a really subtle flavor, not too flowery. I think it was one of the better ones, honestly. It wasn't super sweet and it wasn't super floral. It was a little bit floral, but like the cherry blossom, it sort of had the taste on, like, you would sip it and then get the taste. And so it kind of just left a pleasant taste in your mouth, which I really liked. Usually I want my teas to be flavor forward, but there were a few flavor, like back flavor, I guess. I'm not sure what you call it when it's on the back end of the sip, but there were a few in the advent calendar that I did like, and the lavender honey was definitely one of those. I forgot to look at what today's tea is. Gosh darn. While I was out there. The garbage Americans call chocolate is and smells like puke. Hershey's lobbied for the cheaper processes to be considered chocolate. I mean, I grew up in Pennsylvania, right? So Hershey was on our doorstep, and that was the chocolate that we grew up with. But when I think of bitter chocolate, it's more because I eat a lot of dark chocolate now. I don't think I've had Hershey's chocolate in 10 years. So I really don't eat Hershey's stuff anymore. That's a lie. I do occasionally eat Reese's peanut butter cups because I do like them, but I can't really eat them anymore because I'm lactose intolerant now. But yeah, growing up in Pennsylvania, Hershey was everywhere, right? So I really didn't have any idea about other chocolate options. But actually, Hershey's chocolate is super sweet as well, because they don't use a lot of actual chocolate in their, I found out later, they don't use a lot of actual chocolate. They add a lot of other stuff like milk to their products. So if you want chocolate flavor, there are better options, as I have learned since I moved away from Pennsylvania. Also, the lavender honey matcha didn't suffer from the wild honey issue where it tasted like potpourri. It was just very lightly floral, very pleasantly floral. Day 9 was Mocha matcha, which I expected it to taste like hot chocolate. We're talking about chocolate right now. I expected it to taste like hot chocolate, and it didn't. It really didn't. It tasted like speaking of garbage chocolate, it tasted like really weak hot chocolate, as if someone had watered down hot, used the very minimal amount of flavor and then watered it down, is kind of what it tasted like. It wasn't bad. It tasted like tea, but it tasted much weaker than I expected it to taste. When I drink mocha coffee, or when I drink like chocolate chili chai or like the chocolate almond tea that David's Tea also has, I expect it to taste like hot chocolate. I expect it to have that chocolate taste. And this was kind of more like, it tasted like tea that had a little bit of chocolate in it, if that makes sense. Like, it didn't really, the flavors didn't really blend as well as I expected them to. But again, I drank it with the milk, so I wonder if I took the milk out, if it would have a stronger taste. I'm very unfamiliar with, like, when you drink tea a lot, you learn that, like, adding different things to it makes the tea taste different ways. So adding milk to certain teas brings out different flavors than if you drink it without. Is it tea time? Well, I mean, I'm drinking coffee, but we are talking about tea. It's always tea time, really. ABC Coffee, oh my goodness! Thank you so much for subscribing. Please use the emotes for evil and good if you want to, but mostly for evil. For chaos. I jump from channel to channel looking for streamers who have wholesome streams, and rarely do I feel like sticking around just because I like to share the love a little. But as a writer myself, I've been stuck in editing mode for a while. You helped me write my first paragraph in a couple of months. For that alone, I thank you. Oh, ABC Coffee, I'm so glad that I was able to help you. It means the world to me that my streams helped another writer. That was 100% why I started doing this. I'm so glad that we got you over that hump, because editing can be so hard. And for me, it's the hardest part. So I'm so glad that you're able to move forward on your project, and I'm so glad that you hang out with us. Ooh, we're gonna wear the hat. We're gonna have this conversation with the hat. Let's make it so that you'll be able to see the fabulous hat. Might actually take my headphones off to do the hat because it makes it easier. There. I think it being a little bit crooked is actually quite perfect because it's Jack the Skellington. There we go. But I'm just so happy to hear that, ABC Coffee, that you're moving forward on your project again, because that's the most important thing. So I know that years ago I gave up on a couple projects like in the middle of editing, and I eventually went back and figured them out and sorted them out. But I was just telling Ghost, I think it was like yesterday or the day before, that I really wish that when I had first started trying to write full-time that there had been a Twitch community, because there really wasn't even a Twitch back then. Because I published my first book in, I think, 2014, and Twitch was just sort of starting to be a thing back then, if I remember correctly. And I would have loved if I had someone to do writing sprints with and someone to encourage me. So it just means the world to me that I can be that person for other people and just be there to be the support. Because I know I'm going to be the one who needs that support on some days too. So I'm greatly appreciative to all the other writing streamers as well. Just having found this community. I only found it a couple months ago, but just having found this community, I love it so much, and I'm blown away by how tight-knit and how supportive everyone is. Twitch was pretty newish in 14, but it was all video games at the time. Exactly, yeah, because I remember the Yogscast and like Total Biscuit were doing stuff on Twitch, but I don't really remember knowing about being aware of much else happening at the time. By all means, abuse me for beta reading if needed. Oh, thank you so much. I might take you up on that, because I do have to make some big adjustments to my current project, and I am gonna need somebody to tell me if I did good. So I might take you up on that. There's no space on Twitch yet for all the other amazing things that happened on this platform today. Yeah, I feel like in the last few years, there's been a really big boom in like the way people use the platform, and it's gained a lot of traction. Writing on Twitch in 2015, weird when, I wish I had known about you back then. I wish I had been able to find you, because that would have meant so much to me. Finding beta readers is hard. It is. It really is. And I think like people are so busy that even people who really want to beta read for you sometimes just have a hard time. Like Ghost has been trying to beta read my latest project for several months, and I think he's like a scene and a half in, maybe, just because he's so busy. But I can't really blame him, because I take up a bunch of his time as well. So I can't be like, read my book and spend time with me right now at the same time. I mean, I guess I could. We could just silently read together, but we usually spend our time together doing other geeky things. So, I will say if you're having trouble finding beta readers, it's just good to look around the writing community, see if anyone is interested in the type of thing. Where did you get the courage to become a full-time professional streamer? Hi, Mark Gainsby. Thank you so much for the question. I don't know if I would consider myself a full-time professional streamer. I'm definitely a full-time professional writer. I've been doing that since about 2014. And I basically, well, I will say that it was mostly encouragement from other people in the community. I was writing every day, and I noticed that a lot of people were coming to Twitch looking for places to do writing sprints and places to talk about the problems that they're having in their projects. And I saw basically this community already there, and I thought, well, like I'm doing this, maybe instead of doing it in a vacuum, I should start doing it with people. And I was very nervous about it, because I didn't really think anyone would be interested in just seeing me write, or just seeing words appear on a screen, or listening to my very loud keyboard tippity tap. But people came. I turned on the camera and people came, and people were very supportive. I know I saw Bruce Campbell Soup was lurking earlier. I think he's lurked in every single one of my streams so far, just about. And you know, people from my other stream friends communities came out to say hi and let me know that they were lurking, and people from the writing community came out to let me know that, you know, they were writing and to ask their questions. And so, like, right from the first, I just felt very encouraged and embraced. And I guess I just thought, if I can help somebody else with the things that I struggled with, if I can be there for somebody, and I'm doing this anyway, right? I may as well share it. So I just kind of decided to go for it. And I definitely think it was seeing people's reactions being very positive, gave me the courage to keep coming back and turning on the camera, even on days when I wasn't sure if what I was doing was interesting or worthwhile. And having been writing for, you know, almost 10 years full time, I'm kind of used to just throwing myself into something and seeing what happens, even if it's terrifying. So, I want to quit my job, abandon all responsibilities, and become a millionaire author, social media influencer, and content creator. I feel you. I will say, hang on, it's time to take off the hat, sadly. I will say I don't know your financial situation, so advice with a grain of salt. I will say that the only reason I've been able to write full time is that I have a very supportive husband who is able to handle our house finances. Yeah, I am very, and I've been pretty open about this, I'm very fortunate in that I have a support system, right? I have someone who helps with the house finances, and we are in a place of financial security that allows me to do what I do without necessarily needing to have income. Obviously having income is the goal, and having more income is always another goal. But if I publish something and it flops, I'm still going to be able to eat, right? So definitely look at your financial situation. I know this will take sacrifice. I'm willing to feed my kids cat food or put them up for adoption if need be. I mean, I'm hoping that's a joke. I definitely would say if you are, if you're looking to quit your job and you don't necessarily have money coming from elsewhere, it will definitely light the fire under you to do the thing. But it might be a better idea to, how much money have I made from content creation? Thank you for the follow, Mark Gainsby. I'm gonna say not enough to support me financially without my husband. My husband is definitely the breadwinner in the house. And I definitely would not be able to do what I do without him having that support. I do a bunch of different things. I do Twitch, I do my novels, obviously, and I also edit for other writers. So between that, I do cobble together a couple $1,000s of income every year. But I would not be able to pay the mortgage on my own, if I'm honest. So I'm definitely still very small in terms of where I am in my career. There are authors that do make triple digits. If you look at hey, yeah, I'm definitely not going to be like, I live a glamorous lifestyle to someone who's looking to get into this. No. I think it's important for us to be honest. I'm going to go back and catch up on chat in a second because I know I missed a few things. But I think it's important for us to be transparent. Like, there are authors out there who do make triple digit income every month, and I follow them and I take their classes and I try to learn how to do what they do. But I definitely am not one of those people. I have struggled with trying to raise the amount of income that I do make from my creations. And some days I have really rough days where I'm like, why am I even doing this? No one's gonna see what I'm doing. But again, I am fortunate to have someone who is able to support me, who is able to put me in a situation where I can do triple digit thousands is what I mean when I say, I guess 6 figures is what I mean. 6 digits. Math not my thing. There are people who do triple digit thousand income every month. I'm not one of them. Yes, I do. Yes, I said it wrong. In the heat of the moment, I said it wrong. But I'm definitely doing this for the love and the passion and not necessarily the money. And I'm very fortunate that I am in a position to do that. You absolutely can make money as an author, as a creator, but it's very difficult. And I would definitely recommend having a grounding, having some kind of base before you take the leap. If you can, try to go down to working part-time and creation part-time, or if you have somebody who is able to help support you financially while you get your feet under you. Those are the paths that I would recommend, just because some people go for it, and like, if you look at Michael Anderle, he's a quite prolific science fiction author. He runs a group on Facebook called 20 books or I think it 20 books to 50k or something like that, or 50 books to 20k, something like that, because he figured out how to market himself and how to get books out in a fashion that made him the kind of money that we're talking about. The 6 digits, not the 3 that I said. But there are a lot of other writers who, like me, I've been doing this since 2014, and I make a very modest amount of income, and I struggle to figure out how to market myself properly and raise my income. So be realistic. Did math wrong too since 2014. That was when I published my first book, Wordwin. Let me just scroll up because I know I missed a couple things here. I had a different account name back then, but writing was allowed, but it had to be game related. Oh, but you do, yeah, you write lit RPG now, and I see that you were writing tabletop RPGs. That makes sense. Yeah, I mean, they opened up, they've really opened up Twitch to other categories these days, which I think is really great. Don't quit your job, you need to pay your editor, and you need to be able to pay for marketing as well. Background, guess because I don't think I've explained fully, I've been writing for over 16 years, half my life now. English, writing major, etc. For the past couple years, had been writing and exploring visual novel scripts. Ooh, it's fun but very time consuming. Code is not as easy for me as normal writing. Started on my current project we've talked about, and I'm sticking with it until completion. It'll be my first proper novel, not some kind of game or fanfic original. ABC Coffee, that's awesome. I feel like getting that first novel finished is the hardest. I've never done visual novel script. I've always wanted to try. I feel like it's a completely different challenge from like a manuscript because you have to think of everything very, very visually. But I'm just so glad that you're gonna finish this project. Pepper is in it for the long-term investment. He definitely is. I have to say Ghost Pepper is a bit of a saint. He has been my #1 fan from the beginning. He has encouraged me. He's bursting into flames right now if he's listening because every time someone compliments him, he bursts into flames. But yeah, without him helping me build my life around. I mean, I wrote my first novel while I was working full time. It was very difficult. It took I think 3 years of writing on my lunch breaks and writing in the evenings and just being tired all the time and not feeling like I'd never had enough time. But I did it. And once we were able to have a financial situation where I was able to go full time, we had a lot of conversations. There have been, in the past, there were a lot of conversations about when I might need to start going back to work or how we could change our financial situation. We bought this house in part because we were able to rent out the basement to supplement our income. And it was one of the things that we did in order to ensure that I can start marketing more and keep doing what I'm doing and still support the kind of lifestyle that we want to have. And I just feel it's very important to be frank about that because if I was alone and trying to survive, I would be couch surfing and hoping I would either be couch surfing and hoping that my friends were kind, or I would be, working full time in IT trying to squeeze things into my lunch breaks because that's what I did in the beginning. That is a long time, Wordwin. Have you done marketing or ads for your books leading up to publishing? I usually do most of my marketing after publication. I am still learning the ropes of marketing. I do think that people who come into this with a marketing background probably have an easier time because they know what they're doing from the get-go. My background, like ABC Coffee, is very much in writing. Also, I went to school for IT, so I can fix your computer, but I don't really know a lot about marketing. I have been taking classes. I have a giant marketing book sitting here called Marketing Management that my mother-in-law gave me after she got her master's in business, so that I could read up on marketing. I've read tons of books by other authors. What's his name? Let me check. Mark Dawson. If you're interested in learning how to market as an author, look up Mark Dawson. His Ads for Authors course is quite expensive, but it's very in depth. I've been working my way through that. I need to start doing a bit more of sort of the marketing platform, like management, back-end management, in a little more detail. He sets you up in that course. He shows you how to download your reports from Amazon. He also does BookBub and Facebook, which I haven't delved into yet, but he basically shows you how to set everything up, how to get comfortable with the platform, and how to start advertising your stuff. Now on Amazon, you have to have already published in order to use their advertising platform. Completed marketing at college but never worked in it. Hey, you're still ahead of me, Tempest. You probably understand it way better than I do. And there's another guy, what is his name? Nicholas Eric is another author who he does a lot of marketing research, and if you subscribe to his newsletter, he puts out a lot of information. He's a bit drier than, like his presentation is a bit drier than the other one, but he has a nice starter area on his website, and he often posts case studies. Don the hat again! So these are people that are good to follow if you're looking to. You definitely should start trying to learn about the marketing prior to publishing, just because it's going to help you be prepared for that. I definitely wasn't prepared for the fact that marketing was a thing I was going to have to do. So I definitely did not prepare as well as I maybe should have for that. But absolutely, like, you want to start learning about it. You want to have a plan. Imagine having to do stuff. Lol. I basically feel like I work 3 full-time jobs between writing, marketing, and keeping my house. So I feel like Ghost is back in the kitchen. So I feel like he specifically walked down to his desk to point out that I was saying triple digits instead of 6 digits. Bless his heart. Let me just catch up on chat. Which engine are you using for visual novels ABC? It's different, but it's not that different. Assets are the hard thing to come by, coding them in to match your narrative. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. I always figured if I was doing a visual novel, I'd have to work with an artist. Also, thank you guys all for the hearts. My country sucks. Oh no, Tempest. Yeah, cover design. I do pay a cover artist to do some of my covers. I am lucky in that I work as an editor for other authors, so I can usually, with the help of some really detailed beta feedback, and I have a couple core betas that I have trained up to find all of my stuff, I can usually get away with not having to hire an editor, but editing can be very expensive, and most authors do need it. Dream Things True looks interesting. I read Dante's Inferno and it was based. Yes, Dream Things True is very heavily inspired by Dante's Inferno. I recently reread Dante's Inferno and it was great because I just remembered all of the things that inspired me from that book to write that series. Now that I've actually published it, it was just a really nostalgic experience. I love Dante. I actually just finished reading something called The Pocket Dante, which was all of his writing, including the Inferno. Can I pay you for 10k words beta edit? You can certainly message me, Tempest, and we could talk about it. Depending on what you're looking for, I can let you know my rates. I am closed until the new year, but I will be open in the new year. I mean, I have certain services available. If you send me money for other things, you might not receive them. My dad tried publishing his own thing recently. They said he didn't have 5k subscribers, so bye-bye. Was that like with a publishing company? I tried to get into traditional publishing for a while, and I didn't really like the process. And traditional publishing is kind of a dinosaur. It hasn't really changed a lot in recent years, and I don't know that it's keeping up very well with times. Yeah, traditional publishing companies can be like that. I mean, there's a lot of things that they're looking for. the big buck triple digit. I would love to have triple digit income regularly. I will also say that my income is very irregular. Like some months I do very well, and some months I just don't seem to go anywhere. The summer slump is definitely a thing. A lot of authors talked about how this year, when July hit, the sales dried up. People weren't reading on Kindle Unlimited. People weren't buying books for whatever reason. And so this summer was really hard. There was a dry spell. So it also, like, you're also probably going to make more money on months when you release something, because people are going to buy the new release, and then your sales may trickle out in between. So you definitely have to have a plan for if your income is inconsistent, right? Traditional publishers just looking for the next J.K. Rowling, who can make them millions without needing to do anything but put their logo on your book spine. That's true. That's absolutely true. Traditional publishers want bestsellers, and they will give support to things that they think will sell well, and they will give less support to things that they don't think will sell well. There are a lot of traditionally published authors who have been around for a while who only start to make it big later on, and they talk about their struggles of, being a mid-list author isn't the same as being is not the same as being Neil Gaiman or J.K. Rowling. And also a lot of traditional publishers now expect authors to do things like have their own social media platform and be willing to do some of their own footwork, right, for publishing. So you definitely have to be aware of what you're getting. I mean, you do get the gestalt of the publishing company behind you if you traditionally publish. They will help you with marketing. They will help you with the packaging. But in exchange for that, you lose some of your control over the packaging. You lose some of your control over the book covers. You lose some of your control over the timing of the process and that sort of thing. So also know the benefits of doing everything yourself versus the benefits of trying to go for a publisher or trying to go for an agent. The traditional publishing model rejected Rowling dozens of times. They did, but they eventually got there. They eventually figured it out. I'm missing, everything's going so fast, I'm missing stuff. Is Megan Cutler your real name or your pen name? It is both my real name and the name that I publish under. I decided to publish under my genuine name. Lots of people do go for pen names. The whole system is a big cell phone. There was a publishing company that rejected J.K. Rowling both as J.K. Rowling and under her pen name that they didn't realize was J.K. Rowling, that eventually also became a bestseller. So I'm sure there was a lot of self-kicking. Read that. Why am I considering buying books as a no-income person, also who has a backlog of some books? Because stories are great, and I think throughout time we turn to stories, especially in tough times, and they entertain us. They get us through the rough times. I have some books if you're interested in them, Marathon, but obviously don't strain yourself financially. What type of stuff do you like to read though, Marathon? Are you looking for science fiction fantasy? Are you looking for historical? Are you looking for stuff that's more nonfiction? Maybe not. Pros and cons, as much as traditional publishers can irk you, they do have some good behind them. They absolutely do. And I mean, they have the knowledge and they have the money, right? And so that's one big thing, is if you can get in with a traditional publisher and they're gonna be supporting you, it is beneficial. You do give up some creative control, but it's not like it's a no-win situation. Personally, I decided that I liked the creative freedom of doing things myself. And when I stopped trying to traditionally publish, it sort of lit the fire under me to get through things and to do things more often. It used to be women submitting books under guy names. Now it's guys submitting under women's names. A lot of women do try to make their name sound more gender neutral because, unfortunately, there are some guys that won't buy books for whatever reason if they think the author is a female. That doesn't make any sense to me. I ultimately just decided to publish with my name because if someone's not going to read my books because of my name, then I probably just don't want them to read my books anyway. Have you read the Malazan series? I haven't. I believe Ghost read the first 2 or 3. We have them. There's a bookshelf literally right here, literally right there, on which those books are sitting. I just haven't had a chance to read them yet. My reading list is about 10 years long, but they are on my to-read list because we do have them. I read the first few, really enjoyed the first one, but Steven Erikson goes off the deep end into weird sex stuff. Oh, I wasn't aware of that. Sorry. Orson Scott Card comes to mind. Interesting. Sorry, I need to scroll up and catch up. Traditional publishers hate me because I give out my rough drafts for free. I mean, but Neil Gaiman did a study where he released a book for free and it actually sold more once people could read like a bit of it for free. So I feel like the model is just behind. I've read mostly fantasy, although I have a huge stack of history-related magazines, though I prefer reading fantasy. Haven't really given sci-fi a try, which might be a mistake. I mean, not necessarily, Marathnon. I mean, it comes down to personal preference. If you like fantasy, definitely read fantasy. Have to run to the store. Good luck, Snaz. Take care. I hope you were able to lift your mood a little bit. If you need anything, just know that you can message Ghost and I anytime. Please take care. If we don't see you again, hopefully we'll see you tonight for the Winds of Chaos 1-year anniversary, because it is going to be chaos. So take care, Snaz. Thank you for dropping by. If you like fantasy, Marathon, you could give My Dream Things True a try. I also, if we're talking about like fantasy novels that I've enjoyed, the Coldfire Trilogy by C.S. Friedman is absolutely amazing. I love her writing style so much. She doesn't seem to have really ever done too many series, but I really enjoyed that one. I'm actually leaning back to look at my bookshelf right now. I really liked the Incarnations of Immortality series by Piers Anthony, but apparently it eventually got weird too. I stopped after the first 7 books because I felt like it was a good ending. Apparently, and if anything goes on for a sufficient amount of time, it just gets weird. So I saw that. It's bonkers. Hey, Ghost Pepper, I'll have you know, I start with the weird sex stuff. Yeah, I mean, if you start with it up the front, then people know what they're getting into, right? I hate it when authors are like, all right, now that we're on book 3, here's an essay on my professional fetishes dressed up as a novel. Yeah, now that I have your attention, another one that bugs me is, now that I have your attention, here's my thoughts on politics, thinly veiled as a plot in this novel. I find sex romance stuff in books to generally be filler, and that most stories would end up the same without it. Honestly, Tempest, that's a good point. And I make a point of making my romance subplots actually relevant to the plot. If I like I very carefully make sure that if characters are falling in love and if there's a romance involved in my story, that it adds meaningfully to the story. Side plots are fine, but you want them to enhance your main plot in some way, because otherwise people are just going to skip those chapters or be annoyed by them or feel like they come out of nowhere, right? You want the things that are in your story to weave together in such a way that they feel like a complete whole. And I have nothing wrong with romance subplots, but I don't want them to detract from the main story. I want them to feel like an enhancement. I want them to feel like part of what's happening. And so I try to do things like in my most recent series, the Aravalia Chronicles, in the first book, Dahmer, the main character, encounters one of his exes who, they have a very troubled relationship. And the fact that this person pops up in his life again actually causes a lot of trouble for him, because suddenly he's trying to do this very important, very high-stress thing, and he has this other thing that keeps interfering with it and getting in the way and sort of threatening to distract him or ruin what he's trying to do, right? And so I try to do things like that where it's not just a side plot of, oh, this guy's ex shows up and it's just a thing. It's actually a part of the main plot. It's actually interfering, like not interfering, but it's actually becoming a part of the challenge of the main plot. It's one of the obstacles that he has to overcome, is that this person is in his life again. And I like things like that, where it's like something from the character's past or something else that's going on in the world is becoming a challenge, is becoming an obstacle, but it doesn't feel like a sideways thing. It doesn't feel like we've veered off the main path to take care of that. It feels like it just wove into the braid, if that makes sense. Friedman's This Alien Sure is one of my favorites. I'm planning to read that one. I haven't gotten a chance yet. I love C.S. Friedman's style so much. If I ever write half as fluidly as she does, I'll be happy. I did that in my last project. It took me 5 books to actually have romance scenes. But hey, like, if you're building a character's relationship up and they eventually get together, that's great. Like, readers love that. Readers will keep, like, shipping is a thing. People will keep coming back for that. But in all seriousness, note that many times sex scenes, especially in sci-fi from the 50s to 80s, was a demand by the publisher. This is true, and actually I read a very interesting article once about the reason why sex seems intrinsically linked with sci-fi is that back in the day when sci-fi authors were trying to get published in magazines, often what would happen is they wanted to be the cover story, right? Whichever story ended up on the cover was the most popular story, got more money, got more following, etc., got more notice, right? And the way to get on the cover was to have the raciest story, because they would pick a racy scene to put on the cover because sex sells, right? So what happened was all of these sci-fi authors would start to write these really racy stories because they were in competition to make the raciest story to be on the cover. And then that became the norm, right? It became a part of the sci-fi genre. It carried over into covers. That's why you have like a Princess of Mars and you have a scantily clad woman on the original covers and stuff like that, right? So it's really interesting how like it was, to get that little extra money, it just became this social norm that they would keep that in mind while they were doing it. All of these odd and often creepy sexual elements in sci-fi fantasy today are approved by the publisher. Yeah, that's true. Like 5 people, at least 10 different people read that before it ever makes it to the page in your hand. So that, like, when you encounter that kind of stuff in books, because I'm also reading a fantasy series right now where it's the same. There's some really weird sex stuff in it. And I get to those scenes and I'm like, nobody thought at any point that maybe this was not something that they should put in a book? Like, okay. I think Clifford Simak had a letter about it. His publisher told him to put a sex scene in his novel, so he wrote one of the most outrageous things he could think of, believing the editor would nope out of it. Instead, they published it. The lesson here, he said, is you never play chicken with your editor. That's crazy. But it honestly doesn't surprise me. Because again, like Ghost was saying, the publishing industry has that idea of they want something that's going to sell like hotcakes. And if that's the thing that makes it sell, I'm the same as Ghost. If I'm like mid-series and all of a sudden there's some weird sex thing that is like, feels like it is so out of nowhere to me, I skip those parts. I'm just like, whatever. I'm not going to read this And if it becomes the whole novel, then I guess you stop reading them at that point. I read a sci-fi a couple of years ago. It had the most bizarre blowjob scene. It was so out of place, did not add narratively, and oddly descriptive for no supporting reason. Oh no, that sounds horribly cringe. I got a first book in the sci-fi series for free off of Amazon, and I decided not to read the rest of the series because it just ultimately didn't end up being an interesting book. But it had this really awkward romance, and I use that term very lightly, this really awkward romantic subplot where the main character was interested in this woman, and she seemed to be interested in dating him as well. But like every time they were in the room together, it was really awkward, and like they couldn't figure out how to have a conversation without there being ridiculously stupid levels of sexual tension. Like, it was clear that they both wanted to be together, but also it was almost like the author needed there to be sexual tension between them, so he just like contrived for these scenes to be like horribly awkward. Like, they had no chemistry, but yet the story was like, they're a thing now, and it's like, it was like the most awkward thing. And then there was this big scene at the end where the guy was trying to do something and they were trying to talk him out of it, and they put him like on a phone call with this woman who he was supposed to have a relationship with. And it was just like, again, it was just like it was supposed to be super emotional, and he was supposed to be like saying goodbye to her, and it was just like the most awkward, like flatline, like cringe. And I was like, well, I'm never reading more of that. That's exactly it. I cringed so hard and was like, what the fuck was that? Yeah. That was 100% the publisher saying add sex. Yeah, like, you can tell when something's been tacked on like that. It absolutely does not come through. One of my most romantic scenes. Let's peek at this. I have to move my camera so I don't accidentally infinity stream. Can before I show it, Wordwin, do you want me to show it on stream, or do you just want me to read it? I don't want to show it on stream if you don't want me to. Is it what the publishers want over all of our novels? Apparently, yeah. Maybe because I actually take care with writing my romance. That's why they don't. That's why they don't want to publish me. There we go. There is Weirdwin's romance scene. In the end, someone just puts an out of place sex scene to fill the requirement. Yeah. And we could talk about this for like literally hours. It's so like, to me, I think it's one of the problems with the publishing industry is that on the surface they say, write the story you're passionate about. There are no hidden requirements, but there definitely are things that they're looking for that they're not being honest about. And honestly, it's one of the reasons why I moved to doing my own sort of stuff and self-publishing. Is like, yeah, I'm not making a ton of money, and I'm not like selling millions of copies of my books or whatever, but I'm doing what I'm passionate about. I'm writing the stories that I love and the stories that I care about. And at the end of the day, like, that's enough for me. And as I've said, I'm very fortunate to have someone who is able to support me financially, and allow me to follow my dreams. My ultimate goal is to have a full-time income from my writing. But the only reason I'm able to do this full-time right now without having that is, because I have someone who is supportive of me and willing to bear that financial burden with me. And of course there's an unspoken agreement that if something ever happened to our financial stability if Ghost, you know, for whatever reason had to move jobs, which I certainly hope never happens because he loves his job. Like there's an unspoken agreement that I will drop everything and go back to work if the finances ever require us to do that. So, you know, I'm kind of glad that I don't have to deal with that back end publisher politics, you know, trying to please everyone but myself. I get to be, at the end of the day, I'm the ultimate authority on what I publish, and I'm the only one who really has to be happy with it. Obviously, if my beta readers are like, this is horrible, which they almost never say that, but if my beta readers are like, this really needs attention, or this just isn't really hitting, I obviously listen to that. I don't think I write things perfectly at any point in time. I certainly try to be receptive to feedback, but at the end of the day, I don't have to please my agent and my editor and my publisher on top of myself, right? Because I essentially am all those things. So yeah, that was that was one of our patented tangents, but that was from Wicked Artificer, a gamelit isekai. Well, thank you for sharing it, Wordwin, and thank you for letting me pop it up on the screen. I definitely don't feel like every story needs romance. I don't mind there being a romance subplot if it's meaningful and if it adds something to the overall work, but I also don't think every story needs romance. I don't think every hero has to get together with someone. I'm perfectly happy with having characters who are single and are happy to be single, and I think that actually we could do with more characters who are single and enjoy being single and are well adjusted in their single life. Not every story needs romance. Tell that to 60% of fantasy agents. I mean, I feel like they'd agree with me, but then not accept anything that doesn't have romance, right? It's the same thing with films. Well, yeah, exactly. Like, sometimes it doesn't make any sense. I'm going to cite an example. In The Last Jedi, was it The Last Jedi? Was that the second one? Which was the one where they had the really pointless subplot where they all went off and whatever? It was the like middle one. It was after The Force Awakens. The fact that just out of nowhere at the end of the movie, Rose just kisses Finn. It was like, why? What? Why? Like, there was no indication to me at any point throughout the movie that there was, like, anything other than friendship between them. Shagraz, hello! Welcome to the stream. How are you? What are you up to today? Like, to me, there was no indication that there was anything other than friendship between those two characters. And then they just randomly out of the blue kiss, and I was like, okay. Okay, that happened. There was a bunch of other train wrecks happening on the screen at the time, so it was just kind of another one. But to me, that was a big, like, red flag. Like, why is that in there? It made no sense for that to happen. It was such an out of the blue moment. And they, of course, because the audience reacted to it badly, nothing ever came of it in the next movie. But it was, like, so pointlessly out there. There has to be a kiss in the second movie. That's a requirement for Stewart's trilogies. It was the most random thing. It was the most random thing ever. The best ship is the one found through context clues. Exactly. There should be evidence that your characters are, you know, moving towards being a couple well before that ever occurs as a thing. I have to actually go into the Aravalia Chronicles and make some more context clues for a romance that is in one of the subplots, because the feedback from my beta readers was that it came too out of the blue when the characters finally admitted to each other how they felt. And I felt like I had overwritten that, so I must have overcut it. I must have overtrimmed when I edited it. So I have to go back and make sure that that's actually in there, so that it doesn't feel like at the end of 3 books, all of a sudden these two people are in love that weren't in love the whole time. Single and happy to mingle. Exactly. There needs to be more single and happy to mingle people. Not putting a romance plot in a movie is guaranteed to get panned by critics. Yeah, and it just doesn't make sense. Because sometimes, like, if you're fighting an intergalactic war, you don't necessarily need to have a romance in there. You can. It makes the characters feel more human, but it shouldn't, like, be a requirement. So, drinking coffee. Found some instant coffee that's not too bad. Ooh, I talked about my feelings about instant coffee earlier in the stream. It's kind of meh, but it took me 20 seconds. It's better than no coffee, right? If you have a choice between no coffee and instant coffee for sure. Rose X Finn and Rey X Kylo are both insane. Rey Kylo as specifically not romance interest is great. Yeah, I definitely didn't like them pushing Rey towards Kylo either. I could do a like 5-hour stream on everything I hated about the last 2 Star Wars movies. Like the fact that there's a major plot twist revealed in the opening scroll of the 3rd movie because the 2nd movie was so insane that they didn't even have time to actually do the plot twist on camera. But yeah, I feel like Hollywood really struggles with writing good romance, and it's a problem. It's a thing. If you're happy, I'm happy. Are you happy, Shagraz? Ghost can only be happy if you're happy. Starborn has a great autocorrect. Because it's the formula. I could go off on a tangent about formulaic fiction and what I don't like about it. Shagraz, I know that what you just said is bullshit, and I know that you're just trying to get a rise out of me. If you want to like garbage, then you go ahead and like garbage. But that new trilogy was garbage, and we all know it. I'm just putting that out there. Why does everyone in books have to fall in love with the first pretty person or their preferred gender that they meet? Again, it's the formula. Keep the sass in? Yeah. Well, Shagraz, you're my sass partner. You know. See, when Shagraz and I are watching a stream together, we sass in tandem, but when I'm on stream, then Shagraz sasses me, and then this is what happens. Hey Victoria, how are you? How was your Christmas? Shagraz trolling doesn't sound like him. Ever play Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic? I have not. Both romance paths are great, not forced, lengthy, and over the entirety of the whole adventure. That's good. I like stuff like that. I kind of liked the romance options in the original Dragon Age game, but then apparently they went like over the top in Dragon Age 2, and like everyone just wants to jump your bones like instantly. And if you're like, no, I'm not into instantly jumping your bones, they get super sulky and hate you. And I was like, because Ghost was telling me about his first playthrough of that game, and I was like, that sounds like they ruined a perfectly good romance game system, but wow, you get valuable feedback from beta readers. Mine usually say things like, oh damn, or send me selfies of them crying. I mean, I do get that kind of feedback as well. I have a couple beta readers that I've basically been training for like 5 years and telling them the kind of feedback that I want them to give me. I also, here's a secret to good beta reader feedback. I send out a questionnaire. I actually have a list of core things that I want to know about the book, like, can you imagine all of the characters properly? Or is there anything that feels vague? Or was there something you didn't understand? Or, like, I have a whole bunch of questions that I've sort of gathered from other authors' posts over time. And I send the questionnaire with the book, and then if I'm writing a series, the way for my betas to get the next book in the series is to send me the questionnaire. So if they don't fill out the questionnaire and answer all my questions, they don't get the next book in the series. So that's how I direct my betas to give me good feedback, because I find that most people really want to beta read for you, but don't know how to give the kind of feedback that a writer would give. And so if you're not getting specific feedback from a writer, which I do have at least one other writer who always beta reads for me, you need to just help your betas understand what you're looking for. And sometimes I get like yes or no answers to the questions, but like one of my betas will actually go through and tell me their impressions of every character each time they do the questionnaire. Another one is I ask like, what is the most interesting character and what is the least interesting character? Interesting rather than favorite, right? Because I want to know what keeps my betas invested in the story and what maybe turns them off. So those are ways that you can sort of enhance the feedback that you're getting from your betas. Some of it may still be not as in-depth, but over time, if you're using the same betas over and over, you can sort of help them understand what kind of feedback is useful to you, and then you sort of groom them to be able to give you more helpful feedback. That's my experience anyway. I have some very dedicated beta readers who read everything I write, and I'm very fortunate in that regard. Sorry, I'm waxing eloquent and missing things that are happening in chat. Really nice. How was yours? Super chill. Our Christmas was super chill. I think I mentioned on Ghost Stream that I did spill red wine all over the couch at one point, but I cleaned it up. It hasn't stained. So not a big deal. It was super chill. We watched The Last Duel, and we watched Scrooged, and we hung out. We ate so much food. It was amazing. BioWare had it down pat back then. Yeah. And then they threw it all away. But what if you have charisma 18? I mean, lots of people are going to want to kiss you if you have charisma 18. I was so disappointed in that scene in the new Lost in Space when what's-her-name falls visibly in love with the first eligible boy she sees. I haven't seen the new Lost in Space. I've heard mixed things about it. On the other hand, I think Shipka deliberately hemmed up the acting because she thought it was dumb too. Yeah, I mean, sometimes actors know what they're working with, right? So, pissed a character off because they came on to me super strong and I said no thanks. Yeah, you told me about that. And it's like, I feel like there are people like that in real life, but I don't know how realistic it is to be in the middle of a war and have someone be like, oh, you won't let me jump your bones? Then screw you. I have a list of questions too. Now my beta readers are, this is too much work. And I'm all, you don't have to answer all of them, but they respond, but I want to. I mean, it is work to be a beta reader, in all honesty, like, because it's not just early access to the novel. The idea is that you're making the novel better, right? Again, I'm very fortunate that I have like 3 or 4 people who are very voracious readers of my work and willing to go over it with a fine-tooth comb. Another streamer has a process I'm thinking of doing. They have a link to a Google form at the end of each chapter with a few questions. Oh, that's a good idea too, so that it's like fresh in your mind. Red wine. Yes, I spilled red wine all over everything. It looked like a murder scene for a hot second in the living room. Ghost was very patient because the idea is if you spill something like that can stain, you have to actually pull the liquid out of the fibers in the couch. So I basically was very vigorously pressing like paper towel and then a wet paper towel and then another dry paper towel into the fibers and like stretching the fibers and doing that for like half an hour to make sure that I didn't leave behind any of the color. And because our couch is gray, I think I lifted enough of the color that there's no stain. Wonder why you spilled red wine. I still don't understand how I actually spilled it. I went to put my blanket across me, like I've done dozens of times, and I guess I swung it out just wide enough because it missed my water glass. My water glass was right there too, but I somehow caught the tip of the wine glass and it just went, and it broke the glass. And it spilled. Luckily there wasn't much red wine in there because Ghost had just offered me more red wine and I was like, no thanks. But it was enough that like it could have stained the whole world because red wine stains. What had you been doing all day that might... I'd already told you I wasn't even tipsy at the time. I think it was actually because I ate so much food. I was in a meat coma. And I just wasn't paying attention. This is why I insist my guests drink wine from sippy cups. I would drink wine from a sippy cup. I'd be okay with that. Honestly, I have been ultra careful around anything remotely breakable for the last, like, 3 days as a result. Because I'm like, I am not... And I had some cider in a wine glass last night, and I was very careful with that wine glass. Because I was like, if I break another one of these glasses, Ghost is going to ban me from all the fancy glasses in the house. And then I will have to drink all of my booze from sippy cups. Not that I would be, like, super sad, but I would be a little bit sad. We were talking about tea at some point in this stream. I'm going to go ahead and do a couple more of those, but by all means, distract me with other things. It's 100% fine. I hope that you guys got something meaningful out of me misspeaking about math, but day 10 in the advent calendar was Matcha Mojito. I disliked this one because it was mint. It did taste like a mojito cocktail, but I don't like mojito cocktails because they have mint. So I drank it. I would not look forward to drinking it again because I don't really like mint teas. The wild honey matcha from day 11, I actually drank on stream. That was the one that tasted like potpourri. And again, I drank it. Like, I drank the whole cup of it, but I don't think it was a pleasant experience. And again, it was because it was naturally flavored. It was not naturally flavored. They had just pulled, like, the extract out. And so I suspect that they just pulled, like, the essential oil from flowers in there and flavored the matcha powder with it. And it was like drinking potpourri. Day 12 was mango matcha. And this one was really weird because it almost tasted vegetable-y. It didn't really taste like sweet. It almost tasted savory. I could tell it was mango because it said mango on the package. But if it hadn't said mango on the package, I think I would have been like, what the fuck is this? So it kind of tasted like sweet vegetable, like sweet random vegetable. It wasn't a good blend. Mango is one of those flavors which can be really overpowering, but it wasn't overpowering enough to get over the matcha taste. And so it was like sweet, but then also leafy from the matcha, and so it was weird. It was a very weird one. I didn't really like it. Day 13 was vanilla matcha, and I think this one might have been my favorite. It makes sense that vanilla is just going to pair well with matcha. As I said earlier, if you go to Starbucks and order a matcha latte, they put the vanilla syrup in there to sweeten it. They just sort of naturally mesh. This was the other one that was in a packet. So again, I'm kind of hoping that I can buy it as just loose powder from David's Tea. I would say that was probably my favorite one so far, or at least one of my favorite ones, just because, I mean, it's a given that those kinds of flavors are going to match really well. Day 14 was peach matcha, and I was really, really worried that it was going to have the same problem as the mango one. Because I was like, here we go again, sweet vegetable tea. And peach is a really delicate flavor, which sometimes can be really easy to overpower. But actually, instead of fighting with the flavor of the matcha, it blended really well. And so it tasted like peach. And I liked it. It was pretty good. Peach teas are really hard to find. And I've tried a bunch of different ones and not really found stuff that tastes very peachy. Recently, because I'm subscribed to David's Tea, they sent out one that was called Peach Zing. And it was all zing and no peach. It was basically a peach ginger tea, and it just tastes like ginger. I can't taste any peach in there. I've tried it hot, I've tried it cold, I've tried it sweet, I've tried it not sweet. It doesn't taste like peach, it tastes like ginger. So I would say that of the peach teas I've tried, the peach matcha was actually good because it tasted like peach. Get wrecked, David. I told you about that one because I made a picture of it. I made a cold picture of it. Did I make a picture of it? Maybe it was just one. I did like a single cold, but I was like, maybe this will be better, and it's just ginger, which I don't mind the taste of ginger, but if there's supposed to be peach in there, like, give me the peach. I want it to taste like peach. But here's that thing, like I'm saying, peach is a very delicate flavor. It's really easy for it to get lost in tea. Pear is another one that's really hard to get the pear flavor to come through. And I do have a pear ginger tea, which actually pairs really well, but ginger is a very strong flavor, and it can be really overpowering in drinks, right? So peach and ginger sounds like it's going to be a really good combo, but the ginger is just totally overriding the peach. So I think in terms of like peach flavored teas, the matcha one was better because it was just matcha and peach. And it allowed the matcha to sort of serve as a base for the peach, and it boosted the peach flavor rather than detracting from it. I don't know if it's something I would drink all the time because I don't know that peach matcha is necessarily where my brain goes to when I'm thinking of matcha. But in terms of the fruity flavored ones, it was definitely better than the mango. I have a ginger mango that's mostly fire. Yeah, ginger's very zingy, and I have nothing against ginger flavor, but it's gonna, if you're not careful, it's gonna take over just everything in the cup. So that's my peach tangent. Day 15 was maple matcha. It was mapley. It tasted like drinking maple syrup. It was maybe a little too sweet, because it did kind of taste like I was drinking maple syrup. I can't take credit for tangent. That was something that Tam said one time that I just sort of picked up on. I almost called the stream a tea-tastic tangent, but I thought that may be going overboard. So it wasn't bad, like it wasn't a bad tea. It was a little overly sweet, and because they put cane sugar in the powder, I'm not sure how you would balance how sweet it is. Because the problem with matcha is it goes from bitter to sweet like that, right? Like if you're a couple drops of honey over. So it wasn't bad, but it was a bit sweeter. I have a really good maple oolong tea that I like. Which is very well balanced between the richness of the oolong and the sweetness of the maple, that I think is better in terms of like if you're looking for a maple flavored tea. And I have it in a sloth tin. Day 16 was the perfect matcha spoon. I don't know why they waited until day 16 to give you the spoon. I guess because they wanted you to have tea on the first couple days. But I had actually been using the teaspoon throughout because I didn't have another proper measure for the matcha. So day 16 was just kind of a like tea tools day. I just kind of looked at all the things I had bought for making the matcha. I fell asleep on the bed, so what happened? We went on a huge tangent about publishing and becoming a full-time author and formulaic movies and sex and sci-fi, and it was bonkers, and probably you didn't miss anything, Marathon. Honestly. And now we've just been talking about matcha flavors. So day 17 was the tea I was most excited about. It was the Dreamsicle matcha. And I've talked before about how my character Domran really likes orange flavored things, and that like orange dreamsicle is his favorite flavor. And also I just have a deep nostalgia for orange dreamsicle, so I really wanted that tea to be amazing. They missed my awesome romance scene. Oh yeah, Weirdwin shared a really amazing romance scene with us. I'm sure if you ask, you might get to see it, but it was the best thing about the stream. It honestly was the best thing about this stream, let's be honest. Um, that was not sarcasm, by the way. That was serious. So I was really, really excited about the orange dreamsicle. And again, kind of like the pumpkin pie, it just didn't have as much flavor as I wanted to. It wasn't bad. Again, it tasted like orange cream. It was a little more cream than orange, possibly because I put milk in it again. So this is another one that I want to redo without the milk and see if I get a bit of a stronger flavor. No, our streamer is the best part of the stream. Oh, Marathon, you're the best. Seriously. It was very browse. It was very browse. So yeah, I would have liked a little bit more balance. And again, all of it has the matcha flavor under it too, right? So it kind of wasn't as strong a flavor as I wanted. It was the one that, like, going into the advent calendar, I was the most likely to want to buy just based on the name of it. I sadly, at this point, don't think I'll add it to my collection. But I do want to try it again without the milk and see if I get a little bit of a stronger flavor. It wasn't bad, but again, like the pumpkin pie one, it was kind of a tiny bit of a letdown. Day 18 was raspberry. There are a lot of fruit flavored matchas, which makes sense. I mean, fruit flavored tea is a big thing. I really liked the raspberry. Like the blueberry, it was really good. It wasn't too tart, like it wasn't sour, but it stood up to the matcha flavor really well. In terms of like the fruity teas, I definitely think the blueberry and the raspberry were the best ones. And I would drink that on the regular. The blueberry, how to say this? Like the raspberry one was kind of zingy and the blueberry one was sort of more mellow. So depending on which type, like if you want the zazz, go with the raspberry, and if you want the more mellow, go with the blueberry. But I really liked them both. Probably honestly, my top three are probably the blueberry, the raspberry, and the vanilla. And I do see Snaz asked me on day 18 which my favorites were, and I said the blueberry, the raspberry, and the vanilla. And post more of these teas, those are still my top. So, day 19 was gingerbread matcha. And again, gingerbread is a tea that I've kind of given up on ever finding a good one. Gingerbread is a really delicate flavor. It's very subtle. And so it's really easy, if you're not just eating gingerbread, or gingerbread cookies or whatever, it's really easy for it to get lost. And I've tried multiple gingerbread teas, some from David's, some from other places, and I've kind of despaired of ever finding one that gives me as much gingerbread as I want. So in that regard, this tea defied expectation. I expected something like with the, ooh, it's time for the hat again. Marathon really likes my hat, which makes me happy. Last time I wore this hat, we went off on a major, major tangent, so we'll see. We'll see what happens this time. Oops, wrong direction. I cut off my chin every time I do the hat. So in that regard, this gingerbread tea definitely defied expectation. It tasted more like gingerbread than any other gingerbread tea I've ever had. But the bar is also so low that all it really needed to do was taste like gingerbread to be better than those teas. It wasn't bad. Again, I don't think it had enough gingerbread flavor that I would really be like, oh yeah, I've got to have this. I've got to have this in my collection to drink because it feels gingerbready. Being the best of the gingerbread teas is just kind of like, it tastes like gingerbread. It's a super spiffy hat. Thank you. I love this hat. It was well worth running all over Disney World to get it. So I'll happily wear it during redeems. Day 20 was berries and cream. And it was good. It was sort of generic berry flavor. It tasted a little bit more like the raspberry one, so I'm imagining it was sort of like wild berry, probably. It didn't specify what type of berries were in it. It basically had the berry and the cream flavor. And again, it was a little bit more creamy than it was berry-y. Gonna play some more Mass Effect. Gonna keep this up in the background. No problem, Marathon. Good luck in Mass Effect, and thank you for hanging out. We really appreciate it. So yeah, it was a little bit more cream to berry again than I would have liked, but it was good. Again, it's the kind of thing where I don't know if I'll add it to my collection, but it is in the running. Like, if it's something that, if I can't get, like, the blueberry or the raspberry, I would gladly go for the berries and cream. I don't want to buy, like, 10 different matchas. I kind of want to pick maybe 3 or 4 to maybe have on hand. So I would happily have this on hand. I would happily choose this as, like, something to make a latte out of. It was nice. They're definitely, like I said, I definitely think some of the stronger fruit flavors work better with the matcha pairing than, say, like the spices, because the spices get lost in the matcha. And saying that, ooh, I forgot to put on my countdown, so we'll get a couple extra minutes with the hat. That's fine. Day 21 was chai matcha. It was very cinnamony. I drink a lot of different chais. I drink black tea based chais. I've had rooibos chais. I've had a lot of different chais. So I have an expectation with chai tea. I clipped another romantic scene, but it's a bit more racy. Ooh, well, it's up to you if you want to share it with us, Weird One. I can always keep it off stream if necessary, but people can click on the link and read it if you want. So yeah, the chai matcha, when I smelled it, first of all, it smelled like cinnamon. And when I tasted it, it tasted like cinnamon. Davidson Rooibos Tulsi Chai is one of my favorites. Ooh, I've not had that one. I've had Rooibos Chai, and I've had Tulsi, like tea with the Tulsi in it. But I don't think I've had that combo. I'll have to keep an eye out for it. Here, I was distracted by chai. Ooh, I see why it's more racy. Ooh. I agree. I like that ending. It satisfies the nerd in me. It has a lot of cinnamon and licorice. Ah, okay. I don't like the taste of licorice, so I might not like that one as much. But I might still keep an eye out for it, see if I can try it. A few people understand just how satisfying it is to slide RAM into a socket and get that nice little click of the bracket closing. So yeah, the chai felt overwhelmingly cinnamon when I first sipped it. I did manage to find a sweetness to temperature combo that balanced it out a bit, but I will say that it never was as spicy as I like. I like my chais to be spicy. Like, I like the spice combo. There's a really interesting chai tea that David's has called Saigon Chai, which is really good, really spicy. I definitely, like, it's a good bar for, like, chais. So I would have liked if this one was a bit more, variety, like if it had a bit more variety to it versus just feeling like cinnamon matcha. It ultimately wasn't bad, but I've had much better chais, and I'm definitely spoiled by the amount of chai teas that I have had. So if I had to rate this in terms of like chai teas, I would say in terms of matchas, it was maybe one of the slightly better matchas, but it was definitely not a good chai. I was looking at the David's Tea mega sale. Lots of tea on sale right now, but my regular plain black tea isn't. Oh no, Vinyl, that's so sad. I guess maybe because they're probably trying to get rid of their Christmas collection to make way for the spring teas. So they've put all of the like stuff that they have out for fall and winter on sale, and they just keep their regular like base teas. Yeah. One of the things that does annoy me about David's Tea is that they do cycle their teas quite often. So if there is a tea that you really like, it might only be available at one time of year. Which, like, if I like a tea, I want to be able to get it when I want it, right? So that is one of the things about David's Tea. Also, thank you for the boop final. How are you doing today? What are you up to? But yeah, in terms of matchas, I think the chai was okay, but in terms of chais, it wasn't a great chai. So for me, it's probably low tier on the list. I'm probably not gonna buy it or drink it or whatever. But it wasn't like horrible. It wasn't like the mojito one where I just drank it because it was there and I was like, I'm never drinking that again. I'm good, just taking it easy this morning. Nice. Yeah, it's post-Christmas. It's a time for chill. I think they're having some supply issues with the black tea because it's been going up in price this last year. I wouldn't be surprised. I know that David's went through a lot of restructuring during the pandemic. They pulled a lot of their brick and mortar stores and sort of have switched mostly to just being by mail as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if they are having trouble acquiring some of their regular teas. I know I'm not going to be streaming for a ton more time, probably just like 15 minutes to half an hour, but I am going to pop away, do a quick bio break, and I have to check which tea. I keep forgetting to check what tea flavor I'm drinking today. So let me do that. Just get up and move around for a hot minute here, and then I'll be back.
Hey chat, Cauliflumps would be really happy because I just got a lot of pot.
That was my Christmas gift. One of my Christmas gifts to Ghost is a 14-liter stock pot. Victoria, that is the right response. Okay, I'm gonna go AFK for real now. I'm back. I don't have the collie baked emote. Yeah, for about 2 years now, on and off, Ghost and I have been like, we need to get a proper stock pot so that we can make, like, batches of stock and so that we can make giant pots of soup. And, like, I do make soup in my crock pot, but there are some things that, like, growing up in central Pennsylvania, like, for me, chicken pot pie is actually, like, a big soup. And so there have been some things where I've wanted to make these giant pot meals, but we don't quite have anything big enough. So finally, Ghost had started setting aside some things that he wants to use to make a big stock. And I was like, I gotta get this man a stock pot. So I just did it for Christmas. Usually we don't get house things for each other for Christmas. So I did also get him something else, but I was like, he deserves to have a stock pot so he can properly do the thing. So I just went ahead and got it for him. But, yeah. I remembered to check what the tea flavor for today is. So yesterday, I'm behind, obviously. I actually haven't done all 23 all 24 of the teas yet. I have 2. I have one for today and one for tomorrow. Yesterday I did the strawberry matcha. And again, I worried at first when I took the first sip of it that it was going to be another, like, vegetable-y one. You can make a lot of tea in that pot. I could make tea of any kind in that pot. I could make some beef tea. But I worried when I first sipped from the strawberry that it was going to be another, like, oh no, vegetable one. It smelled very strawberry. Like, it smelled like a strawberry starburst. So it smelled like it had a lot of strawberry in it. But the flavor was actually very subtle. I was able to sweeten it enough that it did end up tasting like strawberry rather than like sweet vegetable like the mango one did. But it definitely wasn't as good as like the raspberry or the blueberry or even the berries and cream. It definitely like, depending on the temperature of the tea, actually, because teas can sometimes taste sweeter when they're cooler. So depending on the temperature of the tea, it didn't always taste like strawberry. So it was okay. In terms of like, did it taste like what it was supposed to taste like? It did, but I wouldn't recommend it. Like, I wouldn't drink it. Tea is weird to me. It's something I feel like I would really like, but I don't think I found good tea. So Ghost actually never used to drink tea. And I've sort of converted him into tea by loose leaf teas. I think it's just a matter of, like you said, finding a tea that suits your tastes. And everyone has like a different preference. Like, you might, like, Flutter really only likes black tea. She likes teas that are really rich and not quite coffee-like, but that are rich and have a lot of spice. She likes Irish breakfast tea. She likes the Saigon chai that I mentioned before. Stuff like that. So you wanna, I would say, like, test a black tea, see how it sits with you. Test a green tea, see how it sits with you. And then look for variations on it. Get a Davidson's variety pack and brew at the proper temps. Exactly. And also, like, that's one of the reasons why I do the advent calendars as well, is like, because I get to taste a bunch of different teas. You can also, if you don't mind springing a little extra for loose leaf tea, you can actually just go into a loose leaf tea store. Like, you probably have one locally. I don't know which it would be. Possibly Tivana, if they're still a thing. But if you go into a loose leaf tea store, you can also just ask to smell the teas, and anything that smells like it would taste good to you will probably taste good to you. And that's a good way to, because I just go into, it's Tea Kettle now. It used to be David's, but it's the place in our mall. I just go in and I ask to smell like 20 teas, and then I buy like the top 3 or 4 or 5 that I liked, right? And I take those home and try them. So that's a good way to find teas that you might like, is to see if you can smell them, or to get a variety pack and then just buy more of the ones that you ended up liking, which is one of the reasons why I got this matcha advent calendar, right? Orange Pico is the best. I do like Orange Pico. I don't drink it very often because I have other orange teas that I like. I really, really, really like Lady Grey, but it's very similar. I don't know if there is a loose leaf tea store in my area. I mean, if there's not, you like Weird One said, you can get a variety pack of, whatever. You can even just go to the grocery store and see what variety packs they have there in the tea aisle. Or you can look online. I know David's Tea does ship to the US, or Tivana is another, I think, if Tivana is still a thing, another loose leaf tea. Adiago is another good one. You can order sample packs of their tea, depending on what you're kind of looking for. So it really just depends on like how much money you want to spend on it. If you care loose leaf tea versus tea bags. You live in LA, there's 100% a loose leaf tea store near you. Shiraz. Like, there's probably like 10 loose leaf tea stores near you. Didn't Starbucks take over Tivana? I think they did, but did they take all the Tivana stores out and replace them with Starbucks, or did they just get supplied by Tivana? I'm not entirely sure how that works anymore, because I know when I worked for Starbucks, they got all their tea from Tazo, and Tazo still sold independently of Starbucks. But I don't really know what the dynamic was when they switched to Tivana. It was an acquisition. So did they actually change they changed all the Tivanas to Starbucks then? What's the difference between loose leaf and a tea bag? So we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, but loose leaf tea is bigger, fresher bits of tea that have been, usually they're sold loose leaf, so they're not in a tea bag, they're just in a tin, and you put them in a steeper or in a bag yourself and steep them. They tend to be higher quality depending on the ingredients and how they're sourced. Tea bags tend to be made from the leftover tea once the loose leaf tea has been prepared, right? So they basically just take all the scrap bits, all the excess, all of the garbage that's left over after they've prepared the tea, and they sweep that into the tea bags. So often tea bags are of a lower quality, depending on if you're buying specifically, like I was saying earlier, I think Tea Pigs is something that they take their loose leaf tea and they just put it in bags. So it's kind of just like the leftover. Now, that said, there are places that make tea bags that still have high quality tea. Republic of Tea is a good one, is a good example. But I would tend to think that loose leaf tea is probably a higher quality just because you're getting more cultivated, better prepared ingredients, basically. Loose leaf is often bought in bulk and takes a bit more work to prepare. Also a good point. Bag tea is ground to be more fine and can be more bitter, often made with a lower quality product. And it's more standard, right? Like the idea behind a tea bag is that you take it out, you plunk it in hot water, and 3 minutes later you have tea, right? Loose leaf tea does take a bit more time and is a bit more expensive. So I would say if you're just starting out with tea, you might want to start with tea bags, and then sort of work your way up from there. Once you have an idea what type of tea you like, then you can move into loose leaf teas and see what the varieties on that type of tea is. So like if you find out that you like black tea, then you can look at all the black tea blends and start buying black tea blends. Or if you find out that you like green tea, same thing. As far as I know, yes. If it were a merger, it would have still been Teavana, but now if the units still exist, it's Starbucks Tea. Interesting. Okay, so I thought maybe they had left it as Teavana. So that's interesting, because I don't know that Teavana was around for very long. But yeah, you'll probably... I can't tell you, like, the tea stores that are here, because I think most of them are not in the US. Like, our local one is called Tea Kettle, and I'm pretty sure they're Canadian only. I don't think they're brand new, so I don't think they've expanded into the US. But I guarantee, Shiraz, if you Google Maps loose leaf tea, you will find something near you. Absolutely. I might have to keep this in mind when getting tea. Absolutely. And Marathon, if you ever have any questions about like flavors or preparation or anything, you can feel free to message me, because obviously I'm a huge tea nerd. And I know Vinyl knows quite a bit about tea as well. So she's talked about tea quite a bit on her streams as well. So they probably left it alone for a couple of months, half a year maybe, for the transition, but now Teavana almost certainly only exists as a footnote. Well, I had never really tried much Teavana because I don't think they were as big a thing here in Canada. They had sort of just started to come here when Starbucks took them over. Business is whack. It is. Well, and sometimes a company will take over another company but keep the brand and keep like because brand recognition is a thing, right? But Starbucks definitely a much more recognized brand than I think Teavana ever was, so maybe it makes sense that they switched it over. So yeah, the two teas that I have yet to try and can report back on next week from the Advent calendar. Today's is Salted Caramel, which should be interesting. Hopefully it'll have a slight more flavor to it than the Mocha did. And the last one is Candy Cane Matcha, which again, it's going to be peppermint, so I'm probably not going to like it that much. I have had candy cane teas that I don't mind, but I don't drink them very often because I'm not a big mint fan. Salted caramel, yeah, I'm pretty excited about the salted caramel one. I'll be able to post about that on the Discord this afternoon, because it's going to be today's tea. But the candy cane is going to be hard for me to drink because it's the only matcha that has milk in it. I actually had to peruse the ingredients before I bought this to make sure that I wasn't buying something that had milk in all the teas, because I am lactose intolerant. I can take a pill and consume dairy, but it's hard because there's a time limit, essentially. And when as you guys have seen from watching me stream, when I make a tea or a coffee, I like to nurse that over a couple of hours, rather than just drinking it all in like 20 minutes. And if I take a pill, I kind of have about 20 minutes to drink the drink. So it's harder for me to drink teas that have milk in them, and I tend to avoid anything that has like milk ingredients in it for that reason. So I'll have to plan very carefully when I drink the candy cane tea. That's what Singular Wireless did to AT&T. Singular was a less known branding, acquired AT&T, a company that had existed for like hundreds of years. AT&T had more brand recognizability, so Singular straight up just changed their name to AT&T, of course. But the old AT&T doesn't exist anymore because it was acquired. AT&T today is Singular Wireless that just changed its name. Yeah, totally. I feel like there's been a couple of fast food restaurants, like, I know that there was some weird crazy thing with, I think it was like Burger King bought a Canadian company so that it would make them easier for them to do business in Canada, because Canada has certain laws about like, like they give different benefits to companies that are Canadian in origin versus being international companies that are operating in Canada. Tim Hortons, that's what they bought. And it makes me so sad because Tim Hortons is like crap now. I basically do not consume anything from Tim Hortons since they were bought by Burger King. But 100% the acquisition was just because Burger King wanted more benefits of doing business in Canada. They wanted to make it easier, so they bought a Canadian company. And they kept the name of it. They kept, like, it's still called Tim Hortons, but they serve completely different food. They might still have the original Tim Hortons coffee. I don't know. But definitely, like, I've basically stopped going to Tim Hortons since they were bought. Capitalism is crazy. They even made the branding more Canadian. Yeah. Well, and I know that, like, I don't know too much about this, but I know that in Canada, like, the government wants to promote Canadian businesses and Canadian, like, so now there's this they're trying to pass something in Parliament that would basically mean that streaming companies would have to devote more advertising to promoting Canadian-made content in Canada, which I kind of understand why they're doing it, but I think it would make more sense if instead of forcing the streaming companies to promote Canadian content, if they would give money to Canadian creators and make it easier for Canadian creators to advertise and survive themselves in a cutthroat market. Like, give that support to the creators and let them create more rather than putting a restriction on a streaming service, because then the streaming service is just going to punish those creators because they're going to be annoyed. Everyone says it sucks now, but I don't drink coffee, so I mean, I've kind of moved on from Tim Hortons coffee to we drink a lot of who makes the grizzly coffee? Kicking Horse. We do a lot of Kicking Horse now. I'm a big fan of the Starbucks Verona. I don't like all of Starbucks coffee. We do have some of their breakfast blend, but I actually don't like it as much. I really like their Verona blend. So yeah, I don't really drink much Tim Hortons anymore. We're like, this coffee looks good, and we throw it in the cupboard. And then when we run out of that coffee, we're like, this coffee looks good. And some things we always have around, like, Ghost has an Arabica coffee, if I'm saying that right, that he drinks quite often, and I drink the Verona coffee quite often. I love Dodger coffee. I'm gonna have to bite the bullet and actually order some and just eat the shipping fee, because I don't want to run out. But I don't drink it very often because it's hard for me to get because of the shipping. But yeah, like, I used to drink Tim Hortons coffee all the time, almost exclusively, but I kind of feel like I've moved on from it. I've moved on to, like, I don't want to say like fancier teas, but I've moved on to like other things. But I don't really like McDonald's coffee either. I don't really like any of the, like, sort of generic coffee places. Maybe I'm a drink snob now. Maybe that's what's happened, is now that I have a little bit more money to spend on this kind of stuff, I've become a little bit more indulgent. But if you like the taste of that coffee, drink that coffee. If you like the taste of that tea, drink that tea. Like, to each their own. It's such a subjective thing, and like, everyone has their own flavor profile. Like I said, like, Flutter doesn't like green tea at all. She only likes, like, black teas and chai teas and, like, really rich, flavorful teas. If you hand her, like, another kind of tea, like a green tea or a rooibos tea, she's like, it tastes like brackish water. That's it. Like, that's her opinion of it. So, I think McDonald's uses the original Tim supplier. I think you might be right. Although, again, I don't really like McDonald's coffee. Although it's also hard for me to drink coffee at McDonald's because they basically do not have any non-dairy milk options, which has become a big consideration for me. Like, if I can't walk into a coffee shop and get a coffee with some kind of non-dairy milk in it, I'm gonna be displeased. But it is what it is, right? I think that's pretty much pretty much everything that I was planning on talking at you guys about today. I hope you enjoyed. I hope this was interesting. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it was everything you wished for. If there's anything else you guys want to talk about before I go, let me know. If anyone else has any other questions in chat. I will not be on Winds of Chaos tonight. I finished my cameo last week. But over on my husband's channel, it was supposed to be on Collie's channel, but they've moved it, I think, to Ghost's channel. If you hop over to Ghost Pepper's channel, that is where the Winds of Chaos anniversary stream is happening tonight at, I think, 6:30 PST. From what I understand, there's been a lot of panic over the setup, so it's bound to be crazy. Check that out. What did you and Ghost get each other for Christmas? I got Ghost stock pot, the stock pot that he flashed a few minutes ago that just arrived. And I also got him a cute little tea tumbler because he doesn't really like the coffee that they have at the school, but he hasn't been making coffee at home because his tea tumbler or his coffee tumbler got broken when he tried to clean it. So I bought him a new tea tumbler, which says, it has a little shark fin and it says teacher shark, and then it says do your work. And it's super memey, but he says that he likes it. So those are the two things I got him, and he got me a tea subscription to Dollar Tea. He said that he looked at the one that you sent him, Victoria, the Adiago tea, but they wouldn't let him ship to Canada. He said he put the order, like he had the order completely ready, he had made all the selections, and then it asked for the address and said it couldn't complete the order, which is super sad. I think you can order tea. I think it was the tea subscription doesn't ship to Canada. So he wanted to like subscribe me, right? Instead of just ordering me tea. But he carried over that idea and he subscribed me to Dollar Tea, which I'm super excited to try out. It's a tea company that's located in Ontario. They're gonna send me 3 different samples of their tea every month for a year, so I'm super excited about that. I do need to order again from Adiago because there's some teas that I wanted to try in there that I haven't gotten to try yet. But yeah, he did try to follow that advice, and it just didn't work out. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm always up for trying new tea. So also we got some stuff on Steam. We got the latest Necroid DLC for Stellaris we just sort of bought it for each other. He bought it for both of us, but it was, a gift from both of us to both of us, because we like to stay up to date on the Stellaris DLC. And we also bought a game called Armello, which we played with Collie and Vinyl on Boxing Day, and it was super fun. And I want to play through the single player and sort of learn the game a bit better. I definitely bumbled around and just kind of won by the skin of my teeth because Collie was like, hey, you can do this. And I was like, okay. And I did it and I won. But Armello is a super cute, it's a video game, but it's in the style of a board game. It's basically the king has become corrupted and you play these cute little animals that have different abilities, and you're basically trying to either kill the king so that he can't corrupt the kingdom, or gain prestige so that you become king when the king dies, or you're trying to find spirit stones and cleanse the king of his corruption. There's a bunch of different ways you can win the game. I think I have that game, but my old computer couldn't run it and I've never tried again. I think you'd really like it, Victoria. We played it with Vinyl and Collie, and I think all of us really liked it because Vinyl told me that they played again later with Pug as well. It's really cool in that whatever path you take to victory is just as viable as any other path in the game. Each of the characters have different stats and abilities that make them unique as well. So I'm interested to try more of the characters. Vinyl played a character that was really sneaky stabby in the first game, and Collie was playing a character that was basically trying to get corrupted in order to beat the king rather than trying to avoid the corruption like you mostly want to do in the game. Yeah, definitely take a look at it, and if you ever want someone to play it with, Ghost and I would love to. So yeah, I'm looking forward to playing more of that. And it's on sale right now. I think it was only like $8 on Steam for the Steam sale. So yeah, it was a nice chill Christmas. Armello was so fun. Yes, I really enjoyed it. And I definitely, because Collie played the Tinkerer character. Was it the Tinkerer? Not the Tinkerer. He played I forget what she was called. But I really liked the character that Collie played in the second game. I want to give her a try. And there was a character called the Tinkerer, which looked really interesting that I like to try too, that I think was like a chipmunk or a squirrel. Armello is really fun. Highly recommend. We could play sometime. Yeah, Chagraz has the game too. I know that Chagraz and Vinyl did a test game prior to us playing. So yeah, I'm always up for that. Did I forget the Shog? Sorry. I'm trying. I'm trying real hard. I'm off all week. Good to know. Also, as I was saying, the things that are going on this week, speaking of Victoria, we are participating in a joint stream. Let me open this so I can show you guys. On Thursday, this is happening. Let me turn myself off for a second. On Thursday, December 30th, we're doing an Intoxicated D&D one-shot. It is the Disaster Bastards plus the Winds of Chaos crew, which I've been temporarily included in. So I'm going to actually be playing my character Ephema, the party grandmother, I guess, for this stream. Donations are going to take this. I think Ghost has posted some information about the charity. Let me just pop this into the chat so you guys can check it out. It is in support of mental wellness, which is a very, very important thing, especially in the post-COVID-19 world. So we will be doing this on Thursday. Here are some of the incentives. You can make the players drink. You can make Flutter roll on the Wild Magic Surge table, which tends to be a fan favorite. Ghost copy and pasted what I wrote, typo and all. Yeah, I probably wouldn't have caught that if you hadn't mentioned it. I see that the post was edited too, so I wondered if you fixed it. I'm super, super excited for this. I actually, tonight during the Winds of Chaos stream, I'm actually going to be leveling up Ephema for this. I have to import her into the Roll20 and update her for this. I'm super excited. I've already talked to Ghost about how I want to handle the shots. I basically want to get a cider that I can add shots to, because that'll be a little bit easier for me. I can't quite down shots at the rate that Ghost does. But this is happening on Thursday. I'm super excited. The details are in the Discord. And of course, we'll be talking about this throughout the next few days leading up to it, because we're all super excited. So that's happening on Thursday. I won't be streaming on my channel again until next week. I decided to just sort of embrace the last bit of my break, and I've got so many other events going on with other people that I thought if I try to squeeze another stream in, it's just going to end up being weirdly awkward, and I might have to cancel and make people sad, which I don't want to do. So I do apologize that it's been a bit of a lighter content these past few weeks, but starting next week, I'm going to be going back to more regular streams. Next week, I'm going to stream on Thursday and Friday. On Thursday morning at 10 a.m., I'm going to be starting a brand new novel in the Aravalia Chronicles. It's going to be the final story in the Visions Unlike They Seem arc, which I believe is called Blood-Forged Bonds. So I'm going to be starting that on stream on Thursday, and then I'm going to be working on it again on Friday afternoon around 2:30 PST. So come check that out if you are interested in the writing productivity streams. We'll be back to those. I'll be having the timer on. And then of course we get into tangents as soon as we turn off the timer for a bit of a break. I'm also going to be starting another new novel. I'm going to be starting the final novel in the Eternity's Empire series. The week after that, I'm going to start it on stream. So I've got a lot of exciting things coming up in January. I'm really looking forward to. I'm going to be fiddling a tiny bit with, I noticed that a couple of the emotes, like the Octo Cheer emote, looks really small in Twitch. So I've talked to Mumbles, and we're just going to, I'm going to try some strategic cropping to see if I can just make them look a little bigger. So if they vanish for a day or two, don't panic. Hopefully they'll get approved a bit more quickly than they did the last time, but I'm going to be fiddling with those just to make them the maximum lovely, because I want you to be able to see how amazing Mumbles art is. And I've also put in a commission with Mumbles for a second set of emotes, so look forward to that. The subscribers should hopefully sometime in January be getting there'll be 4 more emotes. 3 of them will be in tier 1 slots, and one of them will be the 5k bit emote. It's going to be the 5k bit emote is going to be an angry Domarin to go with the grumpy Domarin, and actually it's going to be based on a sketch that Mumbles already did for the first round because I just loved it so much. So look forward to that. There's going to be an innocent emote. There's going to be a witchy hat emote, and there's going to be a dragon teacup because I love my dragon boy so much. So I'm looking forward to that, to have something for my subscribers, especially since you guys have been so patient with me getting things up and running and not even having emotes for like the first 3 weeks that I was a subscriber, or that I was a affiliate. So thank you all so much for dropping by today. I really appreciate it. This is a super fun stream, super chill. And I'm really looking forward to getting back into those word sprints, to digging into the creativity. This is sort of my signing off for 2021. The next time I'm on this stream, on this channel, will be in 2022. And I'm excited. I'm super excited. So I'm gonna wish you all a happy new year now. I hope whatever you do to wrap up 2021, that it's fabulous and relaxing, because we all deserve a little relaxation at this time of year. Bard, if you're still hanging out, I hope you were able to dig out of the snow and get to the grocery store. I hope that situation is going well. And I hopefully will see many of you at the Winds of Chaos 1 year anniversary. Let's see who is online to see if we can raid somebody. And if chat has any suggestions of people that they would like to raid, let me know. It looks like we've got... Well, thank you for hanging out, Victoria. I really appreciate it. It looks like we've got Glowworm is on. Word One is on. Mega is on. We might drop in on her because she's also doing a Just Chatting. Let's see what she's up to. Just have to wait past the ad. It looks like she is also getting set up for the new year. Let me just make sure she's not about to go on a break, because I hate to drop in on someone when they're like, now I'm walking away.
Top of the head. Hi, Sans. Like I literally couldn't sleep. It got so bad. And I think it's because, as I talked about, I've submitted to the music.
Sorry, I know. Me watching another stream is so exciting. Let's drop in on Maiga. She's super cool, super chill. It looks like she is getting set up for next year. Also, she has this nice little thing called Bingo that she does on her stream, which I think is super cool. And she'll mark off a bingo if anything happens, if certain things happen on the stream. Usually there's one for doing a raid, so let's get on the bingo board. Please take care, everybody. I don't really have a right tip for today, just basically take some time to chill and recharge. I like to do so with tea or coffee as it goes. Thank you just again so much for hanging out with me. This was super awesome. I love you all. And I hope you had a great Christmas and you have a happy new year. whatever your endeavors. We'll see you next year for starting 2 new novels, and we'll figure out how to edit on stream. That's something for you all to look forward to. Write less, write more. Excellent advice, Ridwin. If you have the emotes, please feel free to use them. If I can type my own name properly. Feel free to use them in any combination. And take care, my friends. You're all the best.